to order. And let's take for our old new business the first, we're gonna jump down to Certificate of Compliance 270-0301, RGB 1998-12, Harold Ave, Mahoney, because I see council's present. Do you,
And I understand you had a successful site visit. We have the as-built plan. We've recorded the conservation restrictions, and we met all the criteria. And we'd appreciate if you'd be inclined to vote and then sign the certificate of compliance. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? No?
It seems like you're doing a good job out
Right.
there.
All right. Okay, I move we issue the certificate of compliance for Harold F. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? None?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Finally done.
How many years? 7 years?
Oh, I don't know how long it's been. I don't know how long it's been.
1998.
One conservation
That was you,
restriction
Will?
down.
That was you that held that up?
Oh, all right, so,
Oh, I wouldn't have a towel.
okay. Let's see, is there any other old new business? Chuck, can we talk about 10 John Carver Road?
The drawdown? Is that what you said, Carver Road?
Yeah, was, any updates on that?
Which one?
10 John Carver Road, so, we got a report from a resident. I don't know if you, sorry, can't chew gum.
This has happened before on that same area.
Yes, there's an area of the river there near Castine Field where it seems like landscape contractors are coming, driving, parking, and filling up their trucks with water, just dropping the pump over the bridge, filling up their trucks. Chuck and I met, we discussed it for a little bit. It's kind of we don't know at this point whether it's an enforcement issue, technically under the law, but it's definitely worth talking about with the contractor, so.
Well, it's more like talking to the rivers people at DEP. It may be a legal surface water withdrawal.
I did speak to Heidi Davis at DEP, and she said if there's an alteration she gave examples of was cutting of vegetation, withdrawing more than 100,000 gallons, which I don't think they're drawing more than 100,000 gallons. I don't think that stream can yield more than 100,000 gallons at one sitting. But at the same time, we don't know if this is a permitted activity. We don't know exactly what's happening. So we need to sort of verify the facts a little bit more. We have somebody who said that something's happening, but we need to verify that.
I've often heard it's not legal to discharge or withdraw water from a wetland. But I think maybe a river is.
There has to be an adverse effect, so
So we'd have to see if the flow was reduced.
you need to identify trees or some sort of alteration, or the thresholds, 100,000 gallons per incident. That's where we are with it. There, the town could just simply put up a sign, not conservation, but the town could put up a sign that said, "Do not do this here. It's not
Yeah.
safe."
Yeah. So, did I draft a letter for that and email that to you, or have
Did
you
you?
had a chance to?
I didn't have a chance to look at it.
We're hoping that the resident who's let us know about this activity at some point can get a photo so that there's actual evidence that we have, but until such point, all we can do is ask the question of the contractor and see if, they have anything to tell us. So, maybe asking them to come in, talk about it with us would be good. So, okay, moving on to the Mass DOT lighting plan change.
Well, could I ask first about 10 Carver?
Yes.
She also talks about a field that used to be a parking lot becoming a big weed field. What was all that
Right.
about?
It seems there's a parcel of land across the street diagonally from this woman's house, and now I don't know exactly what that, I don't have the paperwork to verify what that parcel's for, but it's my best guess that that's some sort of compensation parcel for work done during the high school construction. And she would like to see it mowed, but I think it's in the process of turning back into a good vegetated space.
Okay.
And right now, she sees kids walking through it, and she sees a risk of ticks to the kids and snakes.
There's a trail through there that goes over to Hensley Street. Centurion.
Oh, but we're talking about a trail, we're talking about across the street from that conservation land. We're talking about the Castine Field side of the road. That there's a small parcel near the corner, and it's shaded, and it's got herbaceous cover right now, nothing too established, nothing too hardy. So she was hoping it could get cut, but I don't think that fits with the use for that parcel. But I don't have the paperwork for that. We need to do a little bit of digging into the high school project, I think, to
I
find
believe that came up when I first got on to Reading, the commission, and Bill Hecht had said that it was part of that plan with the high school.
Not replication.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be left unmowed. We can check into it and find out better details.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's good records on that.
Okay, any more discussion about John Carver Road? No? Okay. Hearing none. Well, that says, is that even
It's
close?
not accurate, yeah.
Not accurate, okay.
I think
'cause
we're a little early now.
I was going to, let's discuss the Mass DOT. There's a lighting plan change. And this, I reviewed this lighting plan change for the highway lighting and ITS upgrade project, phase 2. They're modification consists of removing and reconstruction of a section of the existing pedestal portion of an existing tower foundation. And they are going to keep 2 locations, but put them in an area that's accessed by an existing maintenance access path. And that seems to me, a minor plan change to this, so
Yeah.
motion, could I have a motion to accept a minor plan change to this RDA?
So,
All right, second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, 7:05. My clock has 7:05, so I'm going to, all right, did we close the hearing for this last time? We don't need to open a hearing for, there's no open hearing for the town forest trails work?
It's just a discussion.
Okay, all right, so now we'll talk about order of condition 270-568 under the town forest trail work permit. New benches by Mr. White. Please come forward and. Hello, good evening. We have what you've provided us. We did go out there. And so according to the sketch, it looks like you're gonna install some benches at 2 locations along the Overlook Trail. Do you wanna add any detail that you know about that's not written here, or is there anything you need to update us? Yeah, above and beyond what we
One
have?
question I was
Sure.
gonna ask, the footings for the benches, if it's approved, I can come in. We wanted to make them permanent benches, so we weren't sure what type of footings we could have. Engineering suggested 4x4s with some cement. My dad found these spikes that go in the ground and keep it in place. But we think we still need some sort of cement or something to keep it in place. So I'd like to know what I could actually put in.
Okay, okay.
How big are those stakes?
I believe they're about 3 feet. 30 inches.
Is there another sketch for the bench, like a side view? I don't get a sense of how it's balanced or how the legs work.
I don't have one with me, no, sorry. But engineering, okay, the design 2 months ago.
They did. Okay.
Did they see those footings?
They did not, no.
You might want to run that past them before you go and buy those.
If I remember these benches, you had a proposal, then you wanted to make them longer.
Yes.
So are there any additional supports that suggest by engineering, or are they okay the way they are?
The original design that I found was for 5-foot benches, I believe.
Right.
We had designed them as 10-foot benches and added in 2 extra pairs of legs. Engineering suggested a little tweaking in where they were placed, just evening them out, making sure the bench was stable the whole way across. They didn't think that we needed any cross supports or anything.
Okay.
So now they're every 3 feet apart, the way it's going on? You have a
They're
9-foot
evenly
bench
spread,
before them?
so they're evenly spread. I'm not sure what the exact number is.
Chuck, excuse me a second. Chuck, were you made aware that engineering reviewed this before this meeting? I'm just curious.
No, I was not.
Oh, okay. I would just want to encourage everyone to sign in, please, at the door if you haven't done so. We did walk it, and based on these 2 photos, we actually found the 2 locations, which we were relieved to do.
Sorry, I would have done, but I didn't know what time it was.
Yeah, we didn't either. We had a series of site visits before you and after you, so.
I may not have had a chance, but it's always good to flag or put stakes where your project is being planned.
Yeah.
And
No.
so pass this on to all your fellow scouts. Be really a big help for us.
But we did find it. We found that log. We didn't find the snow, but we found the log. And this location, the top location with snow, that seemed to have really good views of the river with the vegetation in.
Yes.
This other location, which I think is before,
Yeah.
as you exit, so this is actually before that one.
Coming in from the west.
Yep, this one, it looked a little difficult to see the river, and maybe that was your intent for that bench, I'm not sure.
Yeah. We knew it was going to be slightly hard to see,
Mm-hmm.
so we thought maybe we could clear out some brush, but we weren't entirely sold on that idea. There is actually a dead tree there that we thought we might have to remove because it's slanted and already falling over. But
Oh, okay.
the view itself, we thought it should be fine with it slightly blocked, but maybe not.
Well,
Okay.
the second one is about 10 feet off the trail. The first one is right on the trail. But if you go down about 20 feet off the trail, there's this beautiful wide opening there. Have you considered looking at that space?
Down from
If
this,
you just
about
drop down
20, about
towards the
20
river
feet.
just a little bit,
down
there's an
slope.
open canopy section there.
Okay.
I
I
don't-
wasn't aware of that spot, but that sounds like a good idea.
It depends what your purpose for the bench is. Maybe you want to not be right on the river. Maybe you want to be, see what's happening.
I
know,
talked to
in the
Mr.
upland.
Williams of the
Yep.
committee.
Yep.
He said that a lot of people would use it for bird watching, and when I went up there, I saw just plenty of birds just sitting right there. So I didn't
Yep.
want to have it too close,
Okay.
because I didn't want to scare away any birds, but just another 20 feet should be fine.
I
It's
think your
still high
location
up
will be
off the
fine.
river.
I
either
think
one.
either.
Either
Yeah, I
would be
think
fine.
either would be fine as well. Just letting you know.
Just
We
take a
saw
look, you know.
we saw a little spot about 25 feet, 20, 30 feet down slope. And it's obvious. It's a bare patch, you know, no growth.
Wherever you think is appropriate.
Maybe you might run it by Dave Williams again, too, and see what he thinks about that. I think he should be on vacation.
Okay. So I think, yeah, that was, yeah, so it seems like the main, area of concern at this point, you know, the locations seem fine. If I'm not summarizing this correctly, please speak up. The locations seem fine, but how these benches are anchored, we just need to know that final detail. You know, I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you what's gonna work better than something else. You know, I just know you have to get, you know, down below the frost line if at all good, you know, so go
If you
ahead.
end up using a wooden post in concrete, you wanna make sure it's the ground contact type. Most 4x4s are, but it
Mhm.
has to be at least 40 pound, rated at 40 pounds, but I think it's cubic foot of preservative.
So I think from that standpoint, I think we need maybe just a little bit more information, if you have even just a sketch of what the footing is going to be. You know,
Are there like certain types of cement or concrete or anything that can be put in there or cannot be put in there?
again, I'm not an engineer, I can't,
I don't think of any.
It's all the same.
I'm also not a building contractor, so
Yeah,
I
I just
think,
I wanted to make sure none of it was like poisoned the ground or anything.
oh, I assume the typical, I mean, Chuck, feel free to speak up, but I assume typical Quikrete is more than
Yeah, you
sufficient.
can use whatever you want for concrete, just don't wash your buckets out in the Ipswich River,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's all.
And I guess I had a question of access, you know, it looks
Concrete's
like, are you
You driving in?
you're driving in that access road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, okay,
Actually,
for your sake.
there is a quick creek we're just looking into for another trails project where you just pour the dry cement in the hole
Add water.
and then add water to it, just the right amount of water, whatever they tell you. And then you don't have dirty buckets that you have to, drag back out of the town forest or clean somehow.
Okay.
You do have to get the water in there. I suppose you could use river water.
There's a good sized
Rather
well
not.
right over there.
I've
Rather
never
not, he
used
can
that
bring
stuff.
he can bring in his own couple gallons of
I never
water.
used that stuff, and I often wondered if the whole thing turns to cement instantly, so there might be a waiting period.
It's rapid
it to
set.
cure.
It's rapid set.
Have you
Yeah.
used it?
Yeah, I have.
So you don't leave your hand in there.
No.
No, make sure there's a glove
Use
on it.
gloves, please.
Yeah, you have to with cement anyway. Yeah. So I think if you just give us a little bit more information, that might satisfy the rest of our questions as to what is actually happening there.
All right.
So a little bit more information on the footings, how you're gonna do that. And then-
If I recall correctly, you went to the forest committee a couple of months ago on this. Didn't you have a little more plan than this? I thought there was another drawing which showed maybe a cross-section of the bench. Or this is not showing us very much at all, so
We printed a plan from the internet that
that's
was
what
for a 5-foot bench.
so you took that plan, then you wanted to make a
Yeah,
ladder.
we extended that bench, from the side, it's slightly slanted back, see the arms side,
Mhm.
not an overly complicated bench,
Mhm.
but yeah.
So just a little bit more data to fill in what we don't have on paper here. And we could probably wrap it up at that point, you see.
Do you want
Should we-
Andrew, just to submit the paperwork, and then we could
We'll vote on it
see
now?
if
That's
we can
fine.
just move on and
I
keep
think
them
it's
off from
fine.
another meeting?
Okay. Motion, Brad?
I don't think we need a motion, do we?
Well, you
It's
have
under-
to,
it's under the
you have to
existing OC,
agree
right?
that it does fit
That it meets?
the criteria for that existing permit, which is
Okay.
Trail work.
270568.
All right.
So you want a motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move that, the, bench project, Mr. White, will fall under the, aegis of the, trail work permit, 270-568,
With additional supplemental information provided.
with potential, yeah,
Okay.
information
All right.
on bench design.
Okay, I'll second that. All those in favor? Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Great.
See you as soon as possible.
And,
All right, thank you.
Anika will
And
sign. I'll
yep,
send
just get
out.
it to our administrator
Thank you.
and thank you. Let us know when it's happening and when it's done, so we can see it. Thank you. All right. Okay, let's see, it being past 7:10, we're going to reopen the notice of intent, 270-0629, 37 James Road, map 6, lot 35, Fucarelli. Hope I'm saying that right. So the public hearing for notice of intent 270-0629, 37 James Road, map 6, lot 38, Fucarelli, is now reopened and being conducted concurrently under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Reading General Bylaws, Section 5.7. The hearing will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant will present information. The commission will receive reports. The commission will address questions and comments to the applicant. The public will then be given the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, which should be directed to the chair. Please give your name and address before comments and or questions are presented. Please sign in at the attendance sheet at the door. And at this point, with the members of the Conservation Commission, please introduce themselves, starting with Chuck.
Chuck Teroni, Conservation Administrator.
William Finch.
Brian Sullivan, Vice Chair.
Anika Scanlon, Chair.
Terry Selly.
Kim Saunders, Recording Secretary.
And I apologize, just a moment. Before we dive into this matter, I just want to notify people that the matter regarding 364 Lowell Street, the Jameson Properties, has been continued to July 9. So if anyone's here for Jameson Properties at 364 Lowell Street, come back July 9th, okay? Thank you, and I'm not sure where Mr. Teroni
He'll be right back.
is going to.
I'm not sure why.
Okay. All right. Do you mind just waiting a minute until Mr. Teroni comes back? Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. Welcome back. Yes, Mr. O'Connor. Welcome back.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson and Commission, thanks for having us here. Richard J. O'Connell, President of J. O'Connell Associates, Stoneham, Mass. 81 Dale Ave, Stoneham, Mass. Representing Mark and Jen Bucarelli. Mark and Jen can't be with us tonight.
Okay.
They're actually a fundraiser for another survivor event. So
Okay.
I do have Ally Grasskemper, who's our attorney.
Welcome.
And Marshall didn't believe, he believed his report stood on its own and wouldn't need to come here, so. A little house cleaning, we got a couple more of the green cards back, which I'll give up to Sheriff.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, he did get it. Mr. McCord, who owns the 3 parcels out back, never picked it up.
Did you turn in the ones from last
Yeah, they were,
meeting?
they were turned in last meeting.
I don't have them. So wherever those got to, we'll find them.
That's right, you were here.
Yeah, you weren't here last week. I don't. Let me double check on that, Chuck. I'm pretty sure we handed them over the table, but I will definitely double check with Dave.
Okay.
At the last hearing, we went through, the proposal, and by the end of the hearing, it was requested that, a couple alternatives be submitted on the grading. On June 18th, we submitted a package, which hopefully you all have. And just running through the transmittal on that, there's a cover letter from myself explaining the two alternatives, grading sketch 1, grading sketch 2. And then the original grading as submitted for information, public information. A memo from Marshall on the wetlands functions and value, and a letter from Ally regarding ADA and your leeway under that act. The soil testing lab report from the ESS, and then a CD with all of the electronically. So that was what was submitted on the 18th. In my cover memo, I mentioned that we had done 2 alternatives, if I may put up a board now. In addition to that,
Please do.
over the past 2 weeks since we met, we have been meeting with Mr. McCourt, the abutter to the rear of the property, and his attorneys, engineers. As you know, they had some concern with respect to screening and those types of things. So we believe we have an agreement there, Ally, right?
I do believe that we have an agreement.
We do believe we have an agreement.
Well, I'm
So,
glad to hear that grievance is settled.
Me too.
As part of that agreement, there's some additional planting and a little grading changes. Most of it is outside of the buffer area, but effectively it's all one project. So if you don't mind, I'll run through.
Is this what you're about to show us, the matter between the neighbors?
No.
Oh, thought I saw.
Well, it has
I
to
thought
do
I
with
saw
that.
a new looking plan there.
It does have to do with that, because in addition to the alternative 1 and the alternative 2 that we gave you, there's a little twist on this. Because we've added some trees, they're inside the buffer, so we would like to show you that. If I might give you a couple handouts, because it'll probably be easier for you to read. In the package on the 18th, you received an alternative 1 and an alternative 2. Alternative 1 was a retaining wall. And it wasn't our favorite, but it was a suggestion that came from the commission members, and we thought that we could put it forth. It turns out it's cost prohibitive. It's in the $35,000 to $40,000 range, and it's felt by the Bucarellis, the organization, and all the way up to the commissioner of Department of Public Safety, who runs this program. It would be more, that money would be better spent inside the house. Excuse me. So, although we submitted it, in my cover letter I say we submitted it only to let you know how much it was gonna cost, and that it was not really an alternative. So, alternative 2 was a bit of a compromise. In our original grading, we had tried to keep anywhere where we had 2-to-1 slopes at a very minimum, and then get to 3-to-1 as quickly as possible. So with alternative 2, we pulled back the rock bench and slope by about 5 feet at the pinch point. The wetland comes up, as close as to the yard. And
Thank you.
then we sort of held that line and went out, as opposed to following the 25-foot line. We came out. So what that did is effectively we pulled the rock slope for the most part away from the line, but we extend the area where how long the 2-to-1 slope has to run. So we don't get to 3-to-1 as fast as we had in the earlier plan. Does that make sense? Because I point that out. So, this is the original plan as submitted. Drawing C1, it has the slope treatment anywhere from 2-to-1 to 3-to-1, a benched-in rock slope, basically at the 25-foot ZNV line. Now, in our negotiations with Mr. McCourt, or our discussions with Mr. McCourt out back, a couple of things have been agreed. One is we're going to build, we're gonna build a landscape berm at the bottom here. We're gonna push up some dirt at the bottom of the hill, come up a couple feet. That'll give the plantings a little more height, you know. It will also intercept any drainage that's coming that way, and then push that into a swale, which comes back down, and then there'll be a swale on the backside
I see.
as well, away from his property. So, that's the first, sort of the fuzzy plan that I gave you. It's in color, however. I took that one on my phone, so it didn't come out so well. And then there is one tree that's being added, which is inside the 100-foot buffer. So, what we're planning there, again, this is the original grading drainage plan, and the change is we're gonna put a landscape berm, swale either side, and we're adding one tree to what was originally submitted.
What was the planting plan for what was originally submitted?
There were 5 evergreen trees along, it wasn't a berm at the time, it's the same line as shown in green on the plan there. And there were 5, if you look at the landscape plan, LS1, it shows 5 evergreen plantings.
Do you mind helping me find that?
We're now going to 6 evergreen plantings. It should be the last.
Oh, landscape, I see.
LS1, the
1,
last
2,
in the
3,
package.
4, 5, got it.
So
Yep.
there was no
LS1.
tree inside the buffer
Yep.
on that plan, and
Yep.
the proposal is to add the tree, which again is inside the buffer, and then minor regrading in there to take care of the berm and the swale.
Okay.
But beyond that point, there's no change in that original grading plan. We're also gonna put in a short fence at the end of the driveway, just to help with headlight glare coming down the driveway and making the turn. House is over here, little headlight. There's some trees missing in there, so the fence will help that out.
Question, I have a question about the
Sure.
alternatives.
If I could just flip to alternative 2?
Yep,
Because I did the same
Okay.
thing with alternative 2. This is the grading plan we submitted for alternative 2. Again, at the pinch point in here, we pushed back 5 feet, then we held that rock slope out as opposed to curling around with the ZNV.
okay.
So my 2-to-1 slope comes out a little further before I pick up the 3-to-1. In the other plan, we picked up 3-to-1, say in this area or in this area. Now we've got to push that out. We lose about 5-10 feet a yard, a few hundred square feet, but it works. And then the same thing would happen with the landscape berm, the extra tree, and the swale. That all stays the same.
Okay,
So those are the 2 alternatives.
okay. Thank you for providing those additional alternatives. The essence of my question, and I'll just throw it out there, is now I understand that the residential addition off the back of the house is, you know, an addition that's necessary to comply with the ADA, you know, needs for this particular applicant. So obviously some sort of regrading in that area around the house is, you know, necessary if there's additional footings, additional foundations, and additional work being done there. You know, approving some sort of grading, filling, revegetation in that zone seems to me a reasonable modification, because that's an ADA necessary piece of this project. However, what I'm continually struggling with on this project is, you know, and granted, you know, I'm not an engineer. I guess I play one on TV sometimes, but what I approximated with a very bad scale that I have was that the applicant, instead of reestablishing what was cut, the growth, the trees, instead of reestablishing that and then starting with a lawn from what's reestablished from those trees. You know, right now, the applicant is asking for, you know, an 80-foot by 80-foot square backyard, that will bring in, what, by my estimate, over 8,000 cubic yards of fill. And I'm wondering, A, how does that protect the interests of the act in the buffer zone? And B, how does that address the violation of the initial tree cutting? You know, it's kind of this, you know, does the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, stipulate that this applicant is entitled to a 6,400 square foot backyard at the sake of filling buffer zone? Because what I see here is trees were cut. I don't know what elevation they were cut to. I suspect it may be the 136 elevation plus or minus. But reestablishing that destroyed habitat that was contiguous with the vegetated buffer is something that I have to push for based on the Wetlands Protection Act and our town bylaws. So,
I think question A was, does
Wasn't there an
ADA
initial?
allow for this, or something like that? I think what we need to do is back up, just a little bit, and I'll go back to where we started and when we opened the hearing. Mark and Jen were looking in this general area for a house. I don't remember the name of the neighborhood, but it's a very desirable neighborhood, from what I understand. The houses go for sale by word of mouth, and you don't go around and find a stake in the ground that says house for sale, it's gone. I don't know Reading that well. They were put onto this house, so they took a look at it, they took a look at the backyard, and they said that would be very nice if we could do something with that backyard. Mark went to town hall and went to the counter with the house, with the plan, said, do I have any problems here? Am I in a wetland? Do I need anything? And he was told, no, you're okay. There's no wetland map, there's nothing, you're okay. Okay, money was then put down and spent to purchase the house based on that.
I think that's
Later
hearsay.
on, if I could finish, later
Jim?
on,
I think that was hearsay.
well.
Because
both-
we don't
you
actually
know,
even know
both
who he
Mark and-
talked to.
We can discuss that later. Both Mark and Jen were at that meeting. I've talked to them, I don't think they lied. So, they put money down, they bought the house. They're under the impression they have no problems. They got somebody to cut the trees. They came out and cut the trees. Prior to cutting the trees, they called the town hall again. They said, we just wanna make sure. They said, nope, you're not in a wetland, you're not near a wetland, don't worry about it. That's how the trees were cut down. Okay, so that's where we are. That's the enforcement order, that's, hey, you were wrong. You were wrong over here, you were wrong over here. We got an enforcement order, we took care of it, we put in the erosion control. We were filing a notice of intent anyway, okay? So, that's the step back. So it really has not, that part of it has nothing to do with ADA. That has to do with two people coming, looking at a house, saying what they wanna do with it, going to the authorities and finding out, can we do this? I told yes, put down lots of money to buy the house, and then told no. That's all that part of it is about.
You know, Rick, that's a
Now, what the
great story.
ADA part of it is
But
the
I don't think
ADA
I'd buy
part
a
gives.
house and not come in with a set of plans. And
I'm sorry, Chuck, what'd you say?
I said, I don't think I'd buy a house and propose that much work without a set of plans. And I understand that
Chuck, you
this
have training in
gentleman came in 2 times, and, you know, I just don't know how he got steered wrong.
You have training in this, you probably understand it better. okay? If you're a regular layperson who's not an engineer, who doesn't know about wetlands, and you look at a yard and you say, that could be a nice yard. He's
Look,
not an
how-
engineer, he's not, that's not what he does, and you know,
Mr. O'Connell, I understand whatever, I'm not concerned with, quite so concerned with the story of whatever, however we got here. We are where we are.
that's right.
We are where we are. Trees were cut in January. I can believe that if it's January and if there was a perception that everything was fine, I can understand how trees would be cut and plans to fill that yard would happen. The point is, we're not still there because you wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
So
That's correct.
we've got the wetlands, we've got, and whether it was purposeful or accidental, I'm not assigning any judgment to that of how the trees got cut. I'm not pointing fingers at them. I'm just stating the facts. Trees were cut
Yes.
in the buffer. So if I'm looking at this project, trees were cut in the buffer. Now we are filling over half of that buffer with 8,000 cubic yards of soil. And I'm seeing, so here's how I'm thinking about this. When the trees were cut, knowing what we know now, that was additional forested habitat. I don't know what was nesting in those trees. Roots help stabilize the slope. There's an intrinsic value to that forested area. And now those trees are gone, and this amount of fill will obliterate the existing habitat that's out there now, or any chance the existing grade has to reestablish any habitat. So I'm just wondering, lucky us, we're put in the position of having to figure out how much of fill might be okay and how much might not be okay, and where's the interests of the act that are being protected. And I'm looking at, this particular violation, trees cut contiguous to the buffer, contiguous to the ZNV, to get specific. And so, the tree hugger in me, I'll say it, says, why don't we just reestablish those trees? I know this applicant loves the woods. I spoke with him about that originally. Why don't we just reestablish those trees so that we don't have a loss of trees in town, we don't have a loss of habitat, and then determine the yard from there?
There's another factor, and I'm sure Mark likes trees. One of the other reasons for the clearing is more of a psychological. It has to do with what he's been through in open space. It has to do with what we've gone through on the design of the house. Safety, security, not wanting to use the first floor, needing to be above, needing to see wide open spaces. It has to do with what he's gone through. It's a part of, I don't know what you call it, the backlash or whatever from what he's been through. That was one of the main reasons they wanted to open up the backyard and open up the house. And a lot of it has to do with security, visually. What can I see? I want to know what's around me. So that part of it I can't really touch. It's a little more psychological. I believe you have. Yeah, I mean, you've had the wetlands report. I'm sure you've read it. I thought it was done very thorough. There is a wetland. It's a good-sized wetland, and it has plenty of vegetation around it. We're looking for a small piece right in here. It's not. Can you never give up a buffer area? Can you never give up a piece of soil? I mean,
But we're not talking about a small piece.
well, you are when you're talking about one single-family house in a small backyard. this is not, like adjacent to the river, it's not riverfront area, it's not high-end quality wetland. It's just a backyard.
But it is wetland, but there is wetland there, and it is a natural resource.
But you also know that there are grades of wetlands, and this is not like your highest, best quality wetlands, okay? It was a backyard to begin with. They were working it, they were cutting it, they were mowing it, they were doing stuff, so it wasn't, I don't think you had Alvin and the Chipmunks living at the back door here. It's,
Well, based
you know-
on this air photo, it doesn't look like the yard went back,
well, I think if
you
you,
know, a terrific
if you take a
distance.
look at that, that's a shadow. You're going back down into here, the addition is right in here. So you're looking at this piece right there. And you know,
And
you
McCord had cut trees
take a
on
look
this
at that
too.
unvegetated. There's different areas of this when you see this.
I've seen that, you handed that out at the last meeting.
It's very much deciduous, very much too tall.
What do you mean too tall?
It's gonna fall over. It's just getting there. I get trees falling in my backyard every day.
Well,
They
just
just-
get sick, they
I
fall.
have this patch out back just like that, and every time the wind blows, another one goes down. Trees just get too tall when they're clustered like this. Again, how much is too much? I think we've given a nice compromise on the alternative two. I think this does what we want to do, which is make a backyard for someone that planned on having a backyard.
Rick, what does it do to move the boulder retaining wall, and you're not the 6-foot retaining wall, the 8-foot retaining wall, just the boulders, onto the 35-foot, and then do your best to make as much yard from that point? By doing that, you're not gonna need a variance, we don't have to go through that hoop.
You don't need a variance, sure.
So, well, the boulders, at the last meeting, I think they said that
No.
they're,
Did not come out. If you were at the last meeting, I did not hear that you needed a variance for boulders.
you need a variance to work in the 25-foot
We're
and the
not working in
35-foot.
the 25-foot. We're working beyond the 25-foot line,
Mhm.
which is very clearly stated in the bylaw, that the 25-foot is the ZNV line. This
No-
board
no-
adds,
no
this
doubt
board
so.
traditionally adds another 10 feet.
Well, I think what we're talking about is the commission gonna call the boulders a structure.
I don't believe we were, I think we had that go around last time. It's a
Well,
natural.
we didn't resolve it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go at it again. It's a rock, it's natural structure, you're in the ZNV, it's natural.
It's
It's
a
a
net,
toe slope.
it's effectively holding back a grade that goes up at a 3-to-1, up to a 3-to-1 slope on top of it. So it's an anchor of a slope. So the purpose of the 35-foot is to,
Madam Chairperson, I'm sorry, I believe that's a real stretch of calling a rock a structure. I'm sorry.
so, one rock is not a structure, but you're proposing an entire rock berm.
We're proposing
A
we're-
bermed
we're
rock
proposing a
pile,
stretch-
which could, in some backfields of, New England are a stone wall, nothing can grow underneath that, except for the healthiest of trees.
It also
I think
falls
you have to
under
fall
the-
back to the definitions in the building code and everything else, and you will find that a rock is not a structure, two rocks together on a wall is not a structure. A structure is very well defined.
But a structure.
This is
in
not a
the
structure.
Webster's
This is a
dictionary,
section-
it does cover.
This is a section of slope
Mhm.
that we are stabilizing with rock. I could have come down with 2-to-1 and left the rock out. I mean, I'll do that. But I believe, in order to help that slope, that a keyed in boulders at the bottom will help.
All right, can we leave that alone? I'm gonna finish my question. Let's forget about whether it's a structure or not. But let's say you started your project at the 35-foot area, which seems to be where I'd like to see you. I don't know if anyone else likes to see. What does that do to the yard? Does that
Well, we
take
go-
so much away?
We go
that
back
it-
another
that it-
5 feet.
Does it take so much away that it
Well-
turns into some sort of hardship for the applicants?
let me start from the beginning. When Mark first looked at the house, when Jen first looked at the house, they believed they had all of this. They were told they had no problem, they were told they had all of this. Now they're told, no, you've gotta pull back 35, 40, 50 feet from there. Now that's your yard. So what's the hardship? The hardship was, I was told I don't have a problem, and now you're telling me I gotta come back 50 feet.
Mr.
There's the
Rapallo,
hardship. We're just trying to maximize what we can get out of this. There's no question, I'm right up front about that.
So,
We're trying to maximize it, so if you want me to go back another 5 feet at the pinch point to the 35-foot line, and then I'll wrap it around the 35-foot line, and that gets us out of here, let's call it a night.
Can I ask you a quick question on this?
Sure.
Is there any reason to have that graded area behind the addition? What's the reason to have that flat level area behind the addition there?
For his
This
wheelchair
is
prosthetic
access.
leg.
Over here, I'm saying, behind, to go around the other side
to
of the
the
house, I mean, is it
south.
absolutely necessary?
You're on this
Southeast
side?
side.
That side,
Yeah, this is
exactly.
access around the house. You need, I can't come out of the back, I can't come off of the addition and go
Emergency.
straight down at 2 to 1.
Emergency access.
I got a lawnmowers, I mean, it's just house, it's main.
Well, I mean, is there a door on the back there, or, I mean, the reason why I'm asking is, if you extend your foundation down, your foundation can be your retaining wall. So you already have the forms on site.
And now, yes, and now you're into added cost of concrete and all of that. We catch grade pretty quickly out here. Were you at the sidewalk?
I was,
You saw how fast that drops off in there.
right,
And so what we're trying to do is get a path around the house, and then as quickly as we can, get that slope stabilized. I have here's one of the big things, is the sewer is right there.
I saw that, there was a
Oh.
manhole there,
And
wasn't
I have to get,
is that septic or or sewer
in the
pump?
old, in the old days, it was septic and the tank was out here. That's all been taken away and the field is gone.
Right,
It now is a pump station that
Right.
pumps to the front of the house. I have to have truck access, I have to have vehicle access to get there. Can I stop it right after that and say, okay, if you're gonna do anything else, you're
Yeah,
gonna go
that's-
around the other side?
that's a whole different story.
Okay.
I know the pump chamber, you can't do anything with that.
Yeah, okay.
The incremental cost for concrete is negligible if you were building a taller wall, it really would be. And you put some steel in it, they call it a day, it's a taller wall, you grade right to existing, and it would have worked in that case. But the access is the issue, so I understand. That could have got you away from the 35 pretty easily.
Well, in that area, the 35-foot line is
I mean,
is
ideally,
here.
you would have had to extend a modular block retaining wall off the end of the foundation, but half the wall would be built. And that's all I was thinking.
Yep. We chased and turned that as quickly as we could. Here's your 25-foot line, so here's your 35-foot line right in here, so, you know, we're there.
How tall are you talking about with this toe and this block wall? Do you envision that, the toe is slope?
It's gonna be anywhere from 0 to maybe 3, 4, 5 feet. What I wanna do is I wanna make sure that I don't go less than 2 to 1. So I'm gonna try to come up with that, and a lot of this is gonna be done in the field.
Right.
We're gonna stake that line, we're gonna cull the boulders out, we're gonna start placing them in. My guess is we're gonna lose yard just doing that, because we're probably not gonna come up with enough boulders to do what we wanna do. And we're not gonna go buy rock.
I've got plenty of them for you.
Okay.
Trying to get rid of some.
So my guess is from 0 to maybe 3, maybe at the pinch point, that triangle maybe 5 feet.
Okay.
I'm not gonna find more rock than to do that.
Do you have another question?
No, I was curious about that. You're envisioning 1-to-1 for that. I mean, you're talking big boulders.
I'm actually trying to get 2 to 1 everywhere, it's not shown correctly in the detail, but I'm hoping that the rock is at 2 to 1 as well.
mean, I think you can get away with 1-to-1 with the stone, but, you know, it depends on what you do.
Any other questions? Will?
No.
I just have a comment. I would, kind of agree or reinforce what Chuck was asking was, well, do you really need to intrude into the 35 foot? It does, to me, appear that, with the size of the backyard, that you've got an alternative to, I think you're still gonna have a significant flat backyard, like even with pushing it back to the 35-foot line. Also, I kind of, this evaluation of the wetland, I found almost offensive.
I
'cause that-
apologize, I didn't write it.
Yeah, but, I mean, granted, there's not a lot of exotic plant species down there, but in terms of the terrain, there's really no other place like it in Reading with the steep-sided valleys, you know, well forested, water at the bottom, a lot of bird life down there. So it's functioning, and, you know, it's providing valuable habitat year-round. I'm willing to bet there's open water there all winter, much of the winter, because of the flow coming out of the ground. So I, you know,
Well, I did walk it in December and there was nothing down there, that's why I called for a wetlands scientist.
yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I think you did, you know, you did,
I didn't find anything that I saw. I'm not a wetlands guy.
I think you did.
I'm a dirt guy.
Yeah.
But I saw enough that I said I need to get an evaluation, and that's when we got Marshall involved.
From our observations, when you were there, it looks to be spring fed.
Groundwater.
Or
Yeah.
groundwater, yeah.
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 It comes seeping out of the hill there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does.
So
It
it's-
comes down from this area over
Yeah.
here.
So it absolutely has a groundwater connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get, one question I had, which I'm not sure, please tell me if it's in the papers, I will look for it. I've reviewed as much as I can, but sometimes I miss something.
I gave you a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, at this, for the proposed work that you're proposing to do with the regrading, it looks to me like additional trees might have to be removed. And I didn't get any sense of how many have been, any sort of count or inventory of what's been cut to date.
I don't think, there may be some trees under the original scheme, where we're right to the 25-foot line. I think there are some trees in this area that would probably need to come down, and maybe in here where we're not pulling away. But I believe under this scheme, we're away from it. I don't believe there's any, we're at existing grade. These contours are hitting existing grade all along that line.
Perhaps between the addition and the lot
There may be
line?
something over here in this
Yeah.
steep slope.
Yeah,
There may be some,
yeah.
something over in there. There may be some small sap. There's no big trees over in here. There's some small stuff. But yeah, in order to make that slope work, and we'll work around as many as we can. We'll rock around them if we can and weld them and do whatever we can, but.
Yeah, I know there was a shagbark hickory that was maybe the closest, to the house, but there was another large oak in there.
If somebody could point those out when we're out there, we'll certainly do our best to make sure that we well around them or something.
That would, I certainly wouldn't want to see any more cutting down at the top or bottom of that slope, because we've lost so much already.
I was gonna say, pretty often with violations where there has been tree cutting, you know, I think people in town are very familiar with our standard practice of requiring at least one-to-one replacement of the trees. So at some point, you know, if this commission approves what your plan, you know, some sort of tree inventory and replanting would be needed.
Well, certainly I look very favorably on,
If that's your rules, that's your rules.
I look very favorably on a couple, deciduous trees within the 100-foot buffer, but in the regraded lawn. A couple shade trees,
It would make sense to have some
you know, they could
trees
be
along the top of the slope.
they're 30 or 40 feet apart, you know, they'll
Yep.
get big eventually.
Yep.
But we can't approve any plans saying how many and where until we know how many and where.
I believe Mark has an invoice from the tree cutting service that
Might specify that.
specifies the number of trees.
They would keep track.
So, Terry, do you have any additional questions or comments? No? No? Any more at this point? No? I'm gonna open it up to the public and see if there's any questions or comments from the public about this project. Please stand up and give your name and address and
Yeah, I'm Mike Rubin at 43 James Road.
welcome back.
Thank you. The trees were cut in January.
Right.
When was the wetlands certified as a wetlands?
The wetlands were flagged by a professional in April.
So when the trees were cut, there was no wetlands identified. So why is this a violation?
Because the wetlands are there.
But, I mean, if I were to cut down trees in my front yard and then a wetlands developed within 100 feet of that 2 years from now, am I in violation?
How many years from now?
Technically.
2 years.
It doesn't happen that fast. The wetlands weren't seen. They were down there. Like Rick said, anyone in the business, a professional, would have known that. There were professionals on the site. It missed everybody, and we are where we are. I mean, people say what you say all the time. It's not practical that would ever happen. This thing didn't create it. We didn't create the situation to catch somebody. It's not like a mousetrap.
I'm not saying that it was created. I'm just saying if a resident does everything they can do to ensure that they are not violating the bylaws, and in fact, in this case, there was no way to know there was a wetlands there because it wasn't on any town map and no one said there was a wetlands.
It was also a season of the year that it's very, very difficult to see the extent of wetlands.
This
So
applicant
is
did
it incumbent
wholesale
upon
cleaning
a
on a phone
citizen,
call.
is it incumbent upon a citizen every time they cut down a tree to determine whether or not they're within 100 feet of a wetlands?
Well,
In a sense, yes.
Yeah.
it is, in a sense.
And how would I go about doing that?
Well,
Call Chuck and we'd go to
So do
town
you
hall.
walk your own yard? Do you know what's in your
I-
yard?
That
Right.
wetlands is my backyard.
That wetlands,
I live next door.
but have you been down in the back there?
Yes,
Yeah,
walking the
yeah.
dog.
Yeah, we take the dog down, we used to take our dog down.
And it's not wet, ever?
It was
And
only
that
there
culvert
a
and
little bit this
the
spring.
head
In the s-
wall,
In the spring, after the snow melt, it would be a little bit wet.
and the culvert and the head wall that's there, that allows water to go across the road, that was,
maybe you
Maybe
weren't
not.
familiar with it.
I don't know,
I just
regardless, I mean, we
learned about
haven't
it.
cut trees down in that area,
That's
but.
not his property, he wouldn't know.
But I guess the question is, I mean, how do I cut down a tree on my property and know that I'm not violating a town bylaw by being within 100 feet of the wetlands? I doubt that everyone who cuts down a tree in Reading comes and checks with the town to make sure they're not within 100 feet of wetlands before they cut down a tree.
Well, they don't, but there's a lot of neighbors who know, and sometimes we get calls from neighbors, which doesn't
Okay.
make for
I'm
good neighbor relations.
I'm just
but-
confused by this talk about a violation of the bylaws when those trees were cut down in January when there was no knowledge of there being wetlands. So it's not as if someone cut down trees knowing that they were within 100 feet of the wetlands, or even that they didn't ask, because they asked if there were wetlands and they were told there weren't. Because in fact, at that time, no one in town hall knew there were wetlands there, because they weren't on any map, right?
Well,
well, let me just talk about it. So,
go ahead.
Mark came in, I guess is what he's saying, he checked out the project. And I tried to think, you know, what did he do? Here's a guy excited about buying a house. He wants to get that sale in, he wants to get the house, they go quickly. Did he understand the entire project that he was gonna do when he ran down to town hall? I'm not sure he did, and he might have mentioned a small portion of it. The project grew after he got the house, and he ended up cutting down all the trees. I'm not sure where the phone call works into this thing. We're not really going after anyone because all these trees were cut down. But associated with every road is a drainage ditch. And every drainage ditch usually has something that we consider wetland. And if someone came into the town hall and said, look, I'm gonna clear cut my whole yard and it's gonna go right down to South Street, there's the road, there's a little drainage ditch, it would promote someone to go down there and do a site walk. He wouldn't have been left on his own to do something like that.
I want to say something. I'm Patty Leisure. I live at 43 with Michael. We've been there 28 years, and there was a time when the 93-128 interchange was going to go in, and they were going to take our entire neighborhood, and nobody cared about our neighborhood and whether there were wetlands there or anything. They were going to take everything.
Was that an eminent domain
Yeah,
possible?
yeah.
Yes.
Well, they would've found-
That's a isn't that a super, that's like a,
No, Mass
What did
DOT
they-
now,
I don't
I don't know
know
if you've
how
ever heard of Crosby
they do
Corners. There is a huge wetland fill there for that Crosby Corners project. They're doing it right, building it right now out in Concord. It's the biggest wetland replication I've ever seen. They filled in a wetland here, replicated it. They took 10 houses to replicate the wetland. Not for the highway, to replicate the wetland. They're very serious now about replicating wetlands. Mass DOT I'm talking about. It's maybe not the 70s. This is what they did in the 70s, but now it's a very, very serious thing, even for Mass DOT.
Well, this wasn't the 70s.
Yeah,
This
so
was
it's 5-10 years ago.
Let's just be clear, we're not filling any wetlands.
Right.
yes, we know that.
Well,
We know
I'm just
that.
saying, it's very, they
Well, I
take it
guess that
serious.
was part of why I was asking the question, because 2 weeks ago, the question was about whether being at the 25-foot line was acceptable, because that was the original plan, was to be at the 25-foot line, which is required by the town bylaws. And I believe the request was try to push it back a little bit, see if you can get closer to the 35-foot line.
Right.
And then tonight suddenly there's discussion about making up for the violation of having cutting the trees and not filling the 100-foot buffer zone. And that was never an issue last week, so this seems to be like a totally different issue.
No, it's not at all. It's just re-examining the situation. I mean, 2 weeks ago was a highly emotional situation. There were a lot of things we didn't get to because of that. So we're trying to clarify things tonight.
Okay, all right.
And I have a question, Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
that's your name? Now that the McCourts have requested that berm, and you said something about the water
Yes.
going down, is it gonna make it more of a wetland, what you're doing there?
No, it'll feed the wetland. Right now what happens, is the natural course of drainage, if you look at the contours and they're underlying here, but the existing drainage, the flows this way and goes down into the wetlands. We're changing it a little bit and then we're bringing it this way, then picking it up in 2 swales that will also put it right back in the same spot. So,
What's a swale?
swale is a little drainage ditch, a little grass swale. Just,
So it's not gonna change the wetlands?
no, it's gonna help them, they need water. This is gonna bring them the water they need, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, we haven't had water there, everybody says it's wetlands.
Well, there's
but
a culvert there, so there's been water there for decades.
Our property hasn't had water,
Well, I'm not,
okay?
I don't know where your
So
property
I'm
is.
asking, is this gonna make,
I don't
is
know
this-
where your property is, so I can't.
It's
you
the
know.
property just
Right.
adjacent to this.
this is our property.
Can I ask you, is your basement elevation roughly
Well,
the
there's water
same
here.
as the applicant's basement elevation?
Probably, I would.
Okay, so
The houses were built by the same.
So the height, the distance between the bottom of your basement And the wetlands, excuse me, the wetlands are at an elevation of 126 roughly, and
This is
the
South Street
basement of
property.
the house is roughly,
Was it
help me out,
Just
150.
Yeah.
Okay,
Their
so
property line
so
runs
you've
through
got-
like this.
you've got 24 feet of height
Yeah, that's probably our property.
between where the wetland and the high groundwater table.
Right.
You know, you've got the height,
Oh, I'm not
Because of
concerned
the
about, I'm
existing-
not concerned about the basement.
but I'm
flooding, if that's what you're
explaining,
asking.
like,
We're-
that's
we're
why your
way above.
basement's, that's why your basement's not wet. You know, as you're up a lot higher from the wetlands,
I,
and it's,
you know, my question is because you're giving them such a hard time about what they're doing. Now I'm thinking, if you're making them make changes that feed the wetlands and turn it into more than it is now, what's gonna happen if we ever want to do something?
But it's not gonna change the regime of wetlands. We've already said that, so just try and listen to what we're saying.
It's not gonna expand the wetlands?
No,
no,
Okay.
no.
the same amount of water is getting to it.
Okay, well, feeding the wetlands sounds like you're,
Increasing
Increasing-
the size of the wetland.
They're being fed now and we're keeping it the same.
What you really do is just
We
diverting the
still
water
have to feed
over.
it. If you change the drainage pattern and you don't give it water, it could dry up and then
Okay.
these guys would be all over me.
I'm just
So-
trying to
so we have
understand
to-
what you were saying. So you're
Yeah.
saying that the water's going there anyways?
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
just going to, whatever you're gonna do, you're
Right now
going to
the- right
continue
now the
to
water
have the same amount of water go
Right now,
there?
the water sheet flows right down here.
Right,
Okay, now it's gonna come down
It'll
here,
take a detour.
go down here.
okay,
It's just, we're just flattening out this part, so it's gonna take a little detour, go like that.
okay.
And,
And I'm not against what they're doing,
No.
I just didn't understand all
No, I
this.
know, and sometimes I think everybody understands me. I know my wife doesn't.
I'd like to say something.
sure, please, go ahead, sir.
Joe Fistolo, 29 Gavin Circle, Reading. I've been here since November. I know Mark and I know his sister. My wife and I were in the exact same situation. We wanted to buy a house. Came down here, spoke to an engineer downstairs, came to my house. We spent almost an hour and a half in the yard. I have a manhole cover on my property, same thing. The result of our conversation was that I was doing the town a favor by clearing my lot so that they could have access to the sewer. Do I need a permit? I asked, said no. I called my wife and said, honey, this is wonderful, this is a beautiful lot, we can clear it, we'll have the yard. Call the tree guy, clear the land, right? 3 days later, I get a phone call from Chuck. You're in violation of wetland, whatever happened there. I said,
Joe,
I'm not finished.
No.
Let me finish.
finish.
Okay, so I knew the engineer's name. I met him personally. My business partner was a witness. Then he came down and I explained everything clearly, exactly what I wanted to do. All right. So far, we're almost $40,000, okay, into this project. Now, I respect all these people, and I understand their position. I know you guys are saving precious wetland, and I think that's wonderful. The problem, it doesn't really lie with them. How can the town not take responsibility for giving approval for that clearing? My wife and I made a life-changing decision to purchase the house, just like Mark made that decision. Now, I don't know if he talked to somebody, I have no idea. But I know I did, and I don't understand, if that happened in November, supposedly something changed in the town hall so that that wouldn't happen to somebody else. Did it happen again in January? Because I'd be shocked by that. I mean, we have a letter from the town manager saying that, yes, they told us we could cut the trees down. I'm still paying for all the trees. I'm paying for all the replacement. I'm paying for the wetland. I don't blame the commission. I think you're very smart people. You're doing what you have to do to preserve nature. But how did we get here in this situation? If we did come down and talk to someone, and you know that I talked to Chris, I'm baffled that it keeps happening over and over again.
You had neighbors come to you the day you were cutting down the trees?
Yeah.
To say,
they're wetlands. The neighbor's not the expert.
But
The
Ryan,
people
if
who
you're
work at the
told
town
by the
are.
town that it's okay.
Right, you're not, you
The
don't.
town-
Property will help communicate to the neighbors, Joe.
Okay.
That's my property, I don't have to communicate with you about it.
That's how you
but-
go by it?
Okay,
It's my
we're-
property, I
we're-
don't know you, I'm not gonna go around the
Okay,
street and ask
gentlemen,
permission.
thank you.
I
Gentlemen,
didn't even
please.
know you, Ryan.
Gentlemen, please. All right,
That's not the point.
I understand, and I have, you know, knowing what I know about your project and knowing what I know about this project, you know, I've let town hall know that we've got, you know, at best, a communication issue. And, you know, everyone's working on finding a way to make communication more clear, more understandable, and so that everybody knows what's going on. Thankfully, that's not my job. Tonight, I just want to try and get through what we need to get through with these permits and do our best to try and comply with the Wetlands Protection Act as also enforced under the town bylaws and regulations. So, that being said,
Madam Chairman?
sir,
I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, it was suggested to pull this back another 5 feet to the 35-foot line
right,
and wrap that. I just wanted to let you know that I said that would be acceptable. We could figure out how to do that and provide you with another grading plan for that, and that we would certainly be amenable to replanting some deciduous trees within the buffer, within the 100-foot buffer, and we can work that out however many, wherever, and whatever the budget allows. So I just wanted to let you know that
okay.
if you're thinking of doing something tonight, we're okay with that.
At this point, are there any more questions from the commission?
The only thing I would say is, we're talking about trees, and I think that bushes might be better.
Maybe it's
Better
better for the
situation.
applicant as
Yeah.
well, and it also provides some,
You mean in the flat area of the lawn?
So all the replication would be with bushes that wouldn't grow so high, because that seems to be an issue.
Oh,
So it's
and that may
Yeah.
be, and to let the applicant know, I think the town is between town councils. So we have, right, they haven't, they're in the process of
Yeah.
finding a new town council. And I think the Board of Selectmen were to discuss that matter last night. I missed watching that meeting. So, you know, we were going to pass, the letter that was passed to us on to town council for their review and their input
Sure.
before we made any decision about that judgment. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to continue the hearing until Mr. O'Connell can provide us with updated, plans for moving that to the 35-foot.
Is that it?
Is that, so,
When I come back, it's not gonna be 40 foot?
Mr. O'Connell, I'm doing my,
Only if you ask.
doing my best. You know, we're
That's why I didn't put it in
Doing-
CAD, I did it by hand, because I had
maybe,
a feeling.
maybe it's my fault that I wasn't clear enough at the last meeting, and I apologize. There was a lot going on in the last meeting, and,
Yes.
that would be greatly appreciated,
Okay.
okay? Is there any other comments or input?
No, just when you're talking about putting bushes in, we're talking about retaining mostly the same flat area, but filling in around the area with bushes, around the sides? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking that everything on the wetland side of that wall can get vegetated again, and we were asking for trees. So let's, whatever
We
those
definitely wanna
trees are
put-
gonna be, could be bushes instead.
So you still get the
We
feeling
would
of open
definitely just in a
space.
landscaping plan, wanna get something in here to screen the backyard. We have natural grade down in here, which there was some, you know, some stuff's been cut in there, some trees, bushes down in here, and then of course across the top of slope. So it would sort of be all in that area and all within inside the buffer.
Yeah.
And that's, we have not approached a nursery yet for donations, but,
Yeah.
that's the type of thing we'd be working on.
But that still give you a feeling of open space if you use bushes.
Yeah,
So you still have
I
the
very
open,
much
but
like that idea, Chuck, thank you.
And blueberries very happy.
Pipe
around
bush
the
would
wetland.
be nice.
As long as you don't have
Do
a
whatever
white
you
car.
want, do whatever you want,
As
that's,
long as your
don't-
cars aren't.
that's an unofficial suggestion. No, there was something else I forgot, sorry.
I have another question.
So please, go ahead.
Okay, just so I understand, because
Yes.
we keep coming back to these. You're telling him if he moves that line again further
Wall.
away, wall, but it's not really a wall, is it?
It would be a
Yeah.
retaining wall. It would be a wall to hold back the slope. Well,
I thought it
If-
wasn't a
if-
wall.
If he
A graded
moves, if
slope?
he moves the edge of the
Okay.
slope to the
the
35
edge of
foot boundary,
disturbance.
will that satisfy the commission?
And make some plantings. Is that what you're saying then?
I mean, I'm feeling for him a little bit because it's kind of like he's, you know, shooting in the dark here and then you keep moving the target. So, I mean, I think it's only fair to him to tell him what the requirements are.
This consultant was here for a big project a year and a half
Okay,
ago. He
just tell
definitely
me-
knows.
tell me as
I think
the
it's you
neighbor.
guys that
Welcome to my
are
life.
confused.
Yes.
What's happening here is he's putting the best light out for his client, and we need to protect the wetlands. So there's
Yeah, right,
pushback.
but what are
What's a
you guys
wall? What's
saying?
not a wall?
What are you saying?
I'm just looking for some constructive
Well,
communication
we
here
have
between the
given-
two
The-
parties.
The
to
standards
accomplish-
are, we'd like to keep most of the work outside of the 35-foot. Unless you can prove by going closer, you're not gonna harm the wetlands, or you're going to make changes and characteristics of the
And that's in the
wetland
bylaw.
area.
Yeah,
So
that's
we're
fine.
trying
That's
to,
fine.
we're trying to keep that consistent throughout the town, so when people like yourself come in, we'll just point to other properties and say,
Yeah, no,
we
I
are
understand
consistent,
that.
and that's what's gonna protect us.
So are you saying that then, as long as this slope stays beyond the 35-foot line and some plantings go in, that plan will be acceptable to the commission?
I think we're
I
on
don't
the-
think the commission
I think
made
we're
a
on the verge of
decision
that,
on
but
that,
we
yeah.
can't make a decision until we all finally vote.
So-
You know, I can't tell you
There's
how everyone
track.
else
They'll know it
is
when they see
interpreting
it.
this up here.
So
And
what
I've
ends
had
up
clients
happening
like this.
is, when you write an order of conditions, it's nice to have plans in front of you that are finalized. So no one wants to take that step until we see what happens. Now, there could be some miscommunication going on between the plans and when we get them back, and so if we close the hearing tonight, we'd be in a pickle.
Oh, no, I'm not asking you to close the hearing tonight. I'm not asking you to do anything.
No, I'm just
here as an
trying to
observer.
explain the process,
No,
so
I-
this is
I
why we're
understand.
taking small steps.
I understand the process, and I'm just asking for clarification for everybody as to how does this plan need to change in order to be acceptable? I'm not asking you to approve it, I'm just saying what needs to change so that next time it will be acceptable to you.
you know, I could speak up and say what would be 100% acceptable to me, and somebody next to me might say, well, I'm not entirely sure about that. You know, and so
Well, can you
we're
have a
trying to
discussion?
do, well, I've
Well,
opened it to discussion,
We have
I'm
had a
looking
discussion,
for,
and I think we have come
input.
to, I think we have come to consensus.
you know,
So those are your concerns, the 25 versus 35 feet and the plantings?
Yes.
That's the concerns.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
those are
Okay.
basically it, and there's a sign, I think, that's up here underneath. So we are charged with doing our best within that 100-foot buffer zone to make a judgment call every time. Which is, so we have our regulations which call for a 25-foot plus an additional 10-foot, but even our language in our regulations say with discretion. You know, so there's previous conditions that gets taken into account. You know, was this a pre-existing lawn the whole time? No, it was forest. So that's hence my question of, gee, a bunch of trees were cut down. Are we gonna compensate for that? Because there was net loss of forest habitat that was contiguous with these wetlands. And that's one of those things that would be, you know, something that we are able to protect under our authority under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yes.
So, you know, it's my job to do that, so
And I have
if I
no
don't
problem
say
with the objectives
something,
of the commission, and I
So
think
if I- you know,
it's entirely
I'm not
appropriate
doing
for
my
you to be
job.
looking at these issues, obviously, because this is what you're tasked with doing. I'm just trying to work past the frustration as a citizen of dealing with the process by better understanding what is being asked. Because if I was the engineer here, I would be asking, what do I need to do in order to get approval to go ahead? And it seems to me that the answer to that is not forthcoming.
It usually isn't. I'm on the other side of the table a lot. I'm an engineer as well, and I do wetlands permitting in other towns, and it can be brutal.
If I had a nickel for every time I asked that question and didn't get an answer,
Okay.
it just goes with the business. It's a back and forth.
It is.
It's a negotiation process. I would have hoped that,
And
I
we
would have
come
hoped that I would have had that
expecting
last
that you
hearing,
guys are
but
gonna say yes
I must have missed
and not understanding what's happening.
Well,
It would be great if every condition, if we had performance standards for every condition within that 100-foot buffer. You know, but every single project is a little bit different, practically.
So it's just, it all depends on what's on the plan. I mean, if it comes in with three bushes on it and there were 17 trees taken out of there, we're gonna do a new plan, we're gonna ask some more questions. And if that line, you know, Rick's gonna tell us that he has to come around the wetland side of, that line to do his work. So we
So
wanna
you
know
guys
the
are all used to
extent
this.
of that and if there's gonna be
yeah.
enough,
okay.
you know, so there's different questions. Each stage kind of takes you to a new step. And, you know, I guess if we could think of the whole project all at once, these things would go a lot quicker. But, I think we've come a long way tonight.
Okay.
And I think,
Well,
you know,
fair
when
enough,
it's-
and I apologize if I
No,
derailed
I'm
the conversation, but
I'm grateful for your
you guys
input and your response.
are used to this process and it's new to us and it feels, as an outside observer, it feels inefficient. Everyone has the same goal
It is.
of getting to a plan that everyone's happy with. And this doesn't, it seems like an inefficient process for getting there, where you come back every 2 weeks with something and then hope that it's gonna be right, and then you know. Anyway, but that's your world,
And
so
I think
you're
that,
welcome
you
to
know,
it.
as an applicant, it's very personal. It's very personal. It's very difficult. And since we're tasked with protecting the wetland resources, I know it seems, well, this seems like the commission's picking on this person in particular, this applicant in particular, but any applicant could say that. And the issue is, you know, and a lot of people say, but it's just a small piece of my backyard. In your backyard, in their backyard, in their backyard, and that we have to look out for the big picture. And the difficulty is, okay, it's just a small piece, but what about, you know, this person and that person and that person, and then you have this great net. And we're all responsible for it.
And
So,
you think about
Okay.
20 years later,
and 20
all
years
the
later,
little nibbles.
yeah. So that's the picture we're looking at. We can't look on a yard by yard basis, but we need to be fair as well, so it's
Right.
kind of balancing.
All right, thank you.
I just wanna add one last thing, and I'm sorry to, you know, sort of pontificate out here, but, so one of the things I've asked I asked if we had any, I asked our administrator a couple weeks ago, if we had any knowledge of, you know, some general concept of how much of the town is under our jurisdiction. And it's 100 feet from any wetland, 200 feet from any river or perennial stream, plus 100 feet from a vernal pool, which sometimes water's there, sometimes it's not, sometimes it looks like just a bare patch. And I think just based on the wetlands alone, up to maybe slightly more than 40% of the town is under our jurisdiction. It's the headwaters of 3 rivers.
Yep.
And we got a lot to do.
I wouldn't have been surprised if you'd said it was more than 50.
You know, it's a minimum, it's at least 40% of the land.
And
So-
needless to say, I think we need to add that any map in town or anything that you see that shows wetlands, it's only identifying wetlands that are easy. Everyone could have one in their backyard, because we have regulations that bring that area right down to 500 square feet. So when people look on the town GIS and see the wetland layer, they assume that that's it. I'm not in this area, so I'm safe.
Safe.
And we have been working very hard to put some sort of disclaimer on that, and it's coming, it's evolving, but people will know that this is not the final word on wetlands. And it never was supposed to be, but it has kind of turned into that on its own, which is, you know, gonna confuse people more. You know, no one's going to, I mean, the difference between some projects and this project, this was a lot of work that happened. And there's 2 sides to how that ended up happening. most people are cutting down one tree, and it doesn't look like this.
Right.
It
No, I
really
understand.
doesn't. It's
Yeah,
a
I know.
phone
We
call,
live next
did
to
you
the property,
understand
so I-
it?
You know, I've seen the change
Yeah.
in the terrain back there, I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, but we've lived there for 28 years, and so basically, this is our backyard. And basically, the 100-foot buffer zone kind of goes like this. Our usable lot basically ends here, because there's a wall here, which has been there since the house was built in the 60s, and then it just drops off into the woods.
Right.
And
It's steep back there.
Yeah, it's very
I was
steep.
climbing around there on Monday and
Yeah.
steep.
Yeah, you guys were there on Monday, we
Yeah,
saw
we
you.
were.
And it's, you know, I'm fine with that because I like the privacy and I like the buffer and all that, but it's a lot of unbuildable land,
No one's gonna build there.
right?
Well, it's true. So
Okay,
is
thank
there,
you.
thank you. Is there a motion to continue?
I'll move to, continue, hearing for 37 James Road to July 9th.
Okay, so moved. All second. All those in favor?
It'll be in
Well, hold on. Mr. O'Connell, is that an okay date?
I'm sorry. when-
July 9?
this-
Or do you want to continue it to the, I think, what, the
We're still
25th?
trying to get,
23rd?
I won't be here
23rd would be the
but
2
let's
weeks
make
after.
sure we
that.
have a quorum and,
Struggling with quorum these days. 23rd,
I know
the
I'm on
next, those are the two
vacation.
July dates. Will's not
I'm
gonna
not
be here on
here.
the 23rd, so hopefully Jamie can make it.
No.
Chuck, I don't think you're gonna be here on the 9th.
I'm not gonna be here, but,
I know I'm on vacation that week. That's part of the business.
Do you want me to list out the, if we're gonna continue it, we need a
23rd
continue
better?
too, so. August 13?
Wow.
I'm here for that.
Today's the 25th, we have two meetings in July,
So-
the 9th and the 23rd.
why don't we do this differently?
What do you think?
Rick, can you get us plans by the next meeting? With all the changes we've asked?
Yeah.
Why don't we
But I'm not sure that I-
look at the plans?
I'm not sure that
This
I
is
have
just
all
a
the
suggestion, it's up to you guys.
trees spotted.
Look at the plans, and if they're okay, we could close the hearing that night, issue it the following meeting.
Okay,
I don't know if there's any more questions, but
okay.
if, unless there's some big questions that are gonna be asked about drainage patterns or something like that. And I can work with Rick on what we're looking for as far as, so there's a lot of holes in this, like how many trees, how many shrubs, things like that. But as long as that happens,
Move that out.
we could move forward.
You can just give a quantity within, you know, you don't have to survey each tree in, it could be a number of trees within a certain contour.
I believe that Mark said that the invoice says 14 trees, and we have 6 promised to McCourt, the neighbor, along the back fence, so 7 bushes along the wall would,
A lot of those trees are outside the buffer.
Yeah, they don't count those.
oh, we don't count those, all right, so they'll have to stagger a whole bunch of bushes along the wall.
But I'm not sure that all the 14 that were cut down, if that's
Yeah.
what's on the invoice.
I think what it should look like, in my
Right.
opinion, is
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
nicely vegetated
Large
area,
number
Mhm.
more.
and, you know, right there. So,
Yeah.
let's just see what they come up with. Look at that plan that gets vegetated.
I'll get you something if we could have some back and forth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine, you know, email, whatever, back and forth would be great.
So it's the July 9th.
July 9th?
I'll get you something.
And there'll be no further notice to abutters.
Okay.
That just didn't sound right.
Not for any particular reason, that's just how it happens.
All right, we won't come next time.
I know what
You're
you
welcome
meant, it
back,
just didn't
you're
come
always
out
welcome
right.
back.
That's
Or
what
you
we
can
always
sit in the
say.
comfort of your home and watch it on cable, if you have that
We're
ability.
busy that night.
You're always welcome back.
So did you second his motion?
So there was, I second the motion, all those in favor of continuing to July 9th? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Can I get this signed?
Well, that was fun.
Okay. All right. let's hop out of the frying pan into the fire. 29 Gavin, Sargo, come on up. Come on up, we got your, Mr. and Mrs. Fustillo. Welcome back. Thank you for coming. Thank you for contributing to the discussion tonight. We received your document from Ecotech, and the packet with pictures and plot plan, planting plan, and photographs. Is there anything you wanted to just highlight or mention?
John's gonna take over from this point.
Okay, thanks.
He knows the plan.
Okay, welcome back. Just for the record, do you mind just repeating? Kim, do you need to say?
My name is Dr. John Rocker. I'm the Chief Environmental Scientist at Ecotech. I've been working on this since November, and doing some difficult work during the winter and whatever on this. The timing became appropriate. Basically, in May, I went back out and reevaluated the soils out on the site because we'd taken all the fill out of that area.
Okay.
And I redelineated the wetland based upon a significant number of augerings along the line rather than a couple in trenches that we did initially. And the wetland size is about the same, it just shifted slightly. And that's shown with the S-series flags on this plan here. Over here so you can see.
The plot plan.
Yeah, so these are the S-series flags, S1 to S12, they're ground flags. And based upon that, we had those survey located. There's also a plan in there that shows the existing topography and some other things that's not shown on this plan. What this does is it shows the existing drain easement, and it shows the wetland, the 25-foot buffer, and other areas. And we've divided this into various areas depending upon what happened within it. Certain areas just had vegetation removed, certain areas had vegetation removed and fill placed. So we broke it up into various areas based upon that and the presence of the easement. Because we were informed that we weren't going to be allowed to plant woody materials within the easement, so we broke those areas out so we didn't put plants within them. And basically what I've done is I've come up with a step-by-step protocol to bring this essentially back to fruition in terms of getting the area stabilized, getting some plants in there, getting some woody materials in there to get some habitat going back into this area. And do you want to walk through the steps, or have you all read it?
Let's just briefly walk through the steps. If you can give us the Cliff Notes version.
Okay, basically before any work starts, we'll notify Chuck when the work's going to start. Some of this work can happen sooner rather than later. We'd like to do the woody plantings in September rather than have them sit out there in July and August and get baked. We'd rather put them in mid-September. And we can do a lot of other things before then. And we can actually get areas seeded and ready for the plants before then, if we can take things a little bit out of order relative to the scope. The inner siltation fence, which is here, which has one critic gap in it, would remain in place. We'd take the second one out that's about at the 25-foot buffer. And then there's, when we pulled the soil out, some ferns were pulled out with the soil, and there's a pretty good cluster of, we sort of pulled this way when we pulled out, and some soil was dug out of here, and the ferns that are here were probably, if you looked at the picture, this area is pretty devoid of ferns. The fringe out near the wetland boundary has more ferns, and then there's some ferns outside of that. Things might have got shifted a little bit. So what we want to do is, rather than waste those ferns, we'll transplant those back into the wetland area.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
a
happy
fern
there.
costs $6.50 to buy a fern.
Yeah.
We can just take a lot of those and put them back into there. So that's the first step, and we'd look at area A for an example of how the ferns will be placed relative to depressions, because you don't want to plant things in the bottom of depressions, they'll just die. You want to plant them sort of around the edges of depressions. Then basically the area within the 25-foot and this area here, it's not exactly smooth at this point, and there's rocks and there's some bricks. So what we'd like to do is just York rake that. Not really grade it to any great extent, but just go through it, smooth the surface.
Get the big pieces out.
Get the rocks and get the bricks out, because we don't want bricks in there. When we did the original soil removal, there was some, initial landscaper buried some materials in area F. There's sort of a little depression there. We'd sort of just like to smooth that and sort of fill that up a little bit with some of the material that's there, not bring any additional material in to do that, but just smooth the existing, smooth the existing material out.
Okay.
And then in the 25 and the proposed lawn area outside of the 25, we'd propose to put some loam down. Because the existing area out in the proposed lawn area is essentially just the fill material at this point. Most of the fill material has been removed from the 25-foot buffer. There's a little bit left, but putting an inch or 2 or 3 of loam there will provide the seeds that we're proposing to plant there, something to get into and start to grow.
Did you say in the 25 also?
Yes.
So you're gonna seed?
Well, it's
lawn?
by, not lawn, no, there's other seed mix that's proposed within the easement area largely. It's a native seed mix and not, I'll get through all those steps. No, the green is the only area that's lawn. There's a small area, the 25 foot up here, that we'd like to intrude into. It's related to future repair of the wall, because the wall is starting to buckle if you looked at one of those pictures. We just didn't want to plant any woody materials up there. We'd like to keep access to repair the wall. It's 225 square feet. It's about 6% of the 25-foot buffer zone associated with this wetland. Then we propose boulders at about 5-foot intervals along the 25-foot to demarcate that area permanently, so there would be no further intrusion into that area. And then we propose plantings in the various areas. As a table in the report, and this planting plan sort of showing where things are in the plan here. And all the plans are identified here. There's a couple different sizes of some shrubs, and we're trying to provide some sapling species, and we're trying to provide some shrub species of different size. And we're also proposing to, there's notes about where the seed would go. It's largely area D and G, which, area A just had some woody vegetation removed. All the ferns and skunk cabbage and everything is still there. Area D was filled and area G were filled. We're proposing to put a native seed mix in there and allow that to become a meadow. So there'd be a pocket of meadow in the middle, and we're proposing woody plantings throughout the balance of the areas. And then basically this area would be seeded as lawn, and a 10 by 10 shed would be, basically placed. It's over 50 feet from the edge of the wetland adjacent to the house.
It'd be great if it was 50 feet away.
I think it is 50 feet.
Good.
I think it's 53 feet.
Good.
Because that's sort of a minor exempt activity at that point.
Okay.
So, because this is the wetland line and this is 25, it's clearly a little bit more than that again. That's essentially our intent, and the intent is to have everything planted by the end of September.
Great.
And the other thing we were gonna do is within the wetland area, we're gonna put a little bit of partially composted leaf matter, because there's really just the soil in there at this moment. We wanna get a little organic into there, provide some cover and the like.
Retains moisture.
Right. So that was one, I think we're calling for about an inch of that. In just area E and I think C. So that's the plan, and then we're planning to look at it next spring to see how everything was doing.
Okay. Right. The first question I have is area I.
Yes.
Area I, which is between area F and the pool.
Yep.
It seems to me that's an area that is in the 25-foot zone.
Yeah, it is in the 25-foot zone. I explained that the wall here is buckling if you look at the pictures. And if we restore that, we're just gonna have to damage it. We're gonna have to make a filing for the wall at some point in the future. If we restore that at this point, we're just gonna have to damage it when we go in. Because this leaves a 10-foot strip to do the wall repair. That's why we did it this way.
Is that this picture here?
Yes.
The wall
We're just
buckling?
trying to be proactive, because it seems
Yeah.
that it's gonna
Because it needs to be
need
repaired.
attention.
Because it's gonna need to.
Yeah, I think you need access.
After it's repaired, would you turn it back into wetland?
Well, it's
Or vegetated, or what do you, buffer?
Well,
I don't
it's
know what
buffer
it would be
zone.
called.
It's about 20 feet.
It's probably gonna grow right in there anyways.
Yeah, it's, you know, if it, you can just, you know, stop mowing it at a certain point and move a couple boulders and whatever, but that's something that can be done in the future.
I didn't see the pictures. How long do you anticipate, you can hold off fixing the wall?
Money's an issue right now.
Right, I know, I know.
Well, how bad
I
is
know.
it? Is it?
It's not imminent, but
It's
it's.
leaning over about a foot forward, so maybe you could get another, I don't know,
Year, maybe.
yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
It'd be nice to do
Not
that
an
now,
engineer.
huh?
Sure would.
It's not imminent, but we're just trying to be proactive rather than putting boulders there and,
Right,
putting
you
some
may have
plants
to
there.
get some.
you know, the wall's starting to separate off of that boulder that's there.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I see it. I see that boulder.
So it's just sort of, it's starting to get a gap there, and at some point it's.
So it's
gonna-
more like, why spend the money if you're just gonna trample this stuff,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
I
it's-
get it.
It's, again, it's only 6% of that area, and putting the whole 25-foot back into
That
That
Vantage.
type of wall typically needs maintenance, I mean, it's a rock wall, it's
Yeah.
not, it's probably not gonna be a one-time fix, rock walls, they have to be, they have to be maintained.
I think it makes sense to have that
Mhm.
access provided or in the plan.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, any questions from commission? Any other members have questions about this?
No, I
Feedback or comments or anything?
Yeah, I just like to say, I really like the variety of plants you're proposing in there. It's one of the most creative, proposals I've seen.
They're all appropriate for this hydrology.
Yeah.
And the wetland area E and actually D, since we removed the soil, we've actually probably made a more interesting hydrology there because we have little depressed areas and we have
Yeah.
ridges and things. We're not proposing to take out the stumps. We'll leave the
Yeah.
stumps and we'd plant around them. And again, we wouldn't take out any of the rocks or whatever from the wetland area. We're just proposing to clean up the 25, get a little loam in there so the seed and other things will take better. The soils out in the wetland are pretty rich and pretty organic.
No, I was really impressed with the vegetation plan. Yeah. I'm not familiar with, what the material that's gonna be planted in, G, D, and A. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just herbaceous cover,
It's a New England Conservation Wildlife mix. It's a mixture of grasses and
flowers and all that sort
flowers.
of stuff.
And we basically just allow that to go. And
Yeah.
it's something that could theoretically be mowed with the commission's permission
Yeah.
every year or two to keep woody stuff out of there, but we're not proposing that
Yeah.
as part of this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a little area of meadow's nice. It provides some habitat heterogeneity and.
Yep, yep.
And it will provide, if something wants to come out of the vernal pool and walk that way, it will provide cover for it. And,
Right, right.
you know, the pool was actually dry on May 16th when I was out there. It was completely dry. So it's interesting. We've had an awful lot of rain this year, but every place is pretty droughty. It's really interesting. There was a lot of snow melt, and there was a lot of rain in the spring, but every place.
Yeah,
I was at some pools in Billerica, and they were dried up in April.
That's a
It's
little
like-
unusual, isn't it?
It was really weird. So this isn't unusual.
true.
It isn't unusual, but, you know, the frogs plan for it. Some years it works, some years it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just,
Questions, comments?
I have some more. So it sounds like we're not doing a notice of intent. This-
We'd like not to do a notice of intent.
Okay, so on a notice of intent, we have a benefit of getting a few things, because we have some boilerplate in the notice of intent. So some of that stuff is, special conditions,
Mhm.
where we do this, just a deed restriction, saying there'll be no building out there, and they're responsible for letting the next owners understand what this property is.
Mhm.
Granted bounds at the 25-foot line. I know you proposed boulders, but some bounds we have plaques that say, wetland area or something like that, and things like that, go in there. That might be easier to.
Could you issue a new enforcement order with those conditions?
Well, that's what I was gonna suggest. We're gonna do a new enforcement order for this project.
Yeah.
To cover the
with
final.
a lot of the conditions that we would have for a notice of intent.
Right.
Most of, that would be specific to this site. So I would say, I don't know if you guys are in love with those boulders or anything, but if you can go to some other ones, we have just a it's like a 4x4 post, but it's granite, or you can buy a cement one, and then we have a cap that goes on the top.
How many would you put?
You have to put them every 25 feet
Oh.
or at turning points, so you wouldn't really have to put that many.
It'd be about 10.
So it might actually end up being a little bit better looking, you know,
Okay.
instead of boulders. I don't know if you have boulders hanging around.
I don't,
Yeah.
I just thought it would be natural.
Well, Brian does.
I've got a ton.
You keep saying
I've got
that,
a
where
ton.
are they all?
They're at my house. I gotta get rid of them.
So that, and they do have to stick out of the ground a little bit, but,
We typically install them with a foot exposed.
yeah. But that
So
was
So
a
so
four
we
foot-
we
it's a
wouldn't get
4 foot
anything
long.
along there, we would just have those every 25
You can
minutes,
do,
fine.
yeah, as an alternate, yeah.
Okay.
But
And that
I
would
would
be
be
more
fine, I would be
consistent.
fine with the boulders as well. I mean, they're both, as long as they're called out in the restriction. They have to be called out in the restriction.
Right.
Right.
So I didn't know the size of the boulder, how they're gonna get them, and
Right,
again,
but
boulders
that's
you
it,
gotta buy.
Yeah.
So,
I know,
and you
it's
have to
probably
buy these
cheaper
things,
to
it
do what you're
seems
saying.
like it.
Yeah, whichever is more cost effective is.
It's
I
10
really
to-
just wanted
it's
to
10
be
to 12
consistent
pounds.
with,
Right.
you know, we've never asked for boulders before, so.
We just proposed it because it provided a demarcation.
Right.
Since you guys already have a process that everyone's familiar with, that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
But that's what I'd recommend, issuing a new
Yeah.
enforcement order, rescinding the other ones or superseding the other
Yeah.
ones with, that references this and the other conditions you
Right.
have.
Some of the conditions are just that you monitor the wetlands for invasive, establishment of invasives, and you take care of that. We probably need a report, maybe just one following year.
Yeah.
That might be it.
A growth update.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
are the plants established?
to-
Is it
We
working?
we do that all the time.
Take out the plants that die and swap them out.
It's promising to hear that, you know, there's stuff already seeded in the soil that's volunteering on its own. You know, so that'll fill in a lot of other
Yeah.
gaps and spaces.
And it's probably 30 to
It grows fast, I mean,
Yeah.
the ferns are.
There's 30 to 50 ferns out here that we're gonna move down into area D and E.
I saw
That's
those,
great.
So that's a good,
saw the pine needles too,
yeah.
in one area. The only thing you don't get with the, enforcement order is there's gonna be time frames on it, so, where you'd have 3 years with a notice of intent,
So
so,
we're proposing to have it done by the end of September.
so that shouldn't be a problem.
If something
all the
changes,
plans you
we'll
get.
let you know immediately, but
Yeah.
that's, the plan is,
We wanna be done.
Actually, if we
Yeah,
can-
but- yeah.
Move on with our
If we can,
lives.
if we can get the York raking done and put up those markers like you're talking about.
That would be
and-
great to start out with
Yeah,
those two
get
things.
the
Yeah.
loam in, get the area seeded, and then you can come back 2.5 months later and put the plants in. That's something that might be done out of sequence potentially. Get the lawn and the seed in, and then come back and,
So that fill in that grassed area is gonna stay, so that you spread that out, on top of what was there, and now you're gonna put on a couple of inches of topsoil,
yeah, loamy
and
topsoil.
that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
The lawn area might get 4 because
Yeah.
you really need 4 to get a lawn going.
Right.
But down here, it's just gonna be, basically 1 here going to 3 as you move further out. Just to have something for the seed to bite into.
It'll make its own after a while.
It's gonna, because again, here it's all gonna be woody plants, here it's gonna be woody, this is the spot where we want a little something, the soil's really good in D. We wanna really, again, we're not gonna do anything to the soil in the wetland areas, it's just in the 25 foot. Because there's bricks and rocks and other things there, that we really wanna get out of there.
Yeah, get that out.
But again, it's not really going down 6 inches and raking, it's really just
Superficial,
touching the surface with it.
okay.
You know,
And
here-
that'll aerate the soils too.
And then this area out here would get a little bit more as this area is just pulled around to fill in that depression. 'Cause as I said, there was landscape timbers that were buried there, and it's like, we didn't wanna leave them there, and then we didn't put fill back in it.
Yeah.
We just left it as it was after we pulled the materials out.
Right.
Okay, any other?
And that's the reason there was a second vernal pool created.
No, it was, the depression's about as big as the central well there,
Yeah.
but that's,
Right.
it's just a little bit lower, and water was ponding there this spring.
Right.
We should pay your medical bill for that small heart attack.
Well, the mapping actually shows the vernal pool in the backyard over,
Yeah.
Right.
right here, the mapping
Pearl.
shows it here as opposed
Oh,
to here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
it's,
a little off.
our map is inaccurate.
Well, the thing is, it's not your
It's
map,
not-
it's the
not
date
the-
the vernal pool was certified was
Yeah.
in the eighties, and they took the arrow that someone drew on a USGS map and digitized it.
Well, and
Yeah.
you should see the forms for how these vernal pool locations are described.
Well, nowadays,
It's
it's,
drive down
yeah,
this,
it's more
the
accurate.
old
When you
forms.
fill out the forms now, it's, you're putting a point on a
GPS point.
GPS
That
point.
helps.
Yeah.
So,
We have a lot of old data that
yeah.
people
So
have done their best to
Yeah, the
put it
pools
in the right
they're
spot.
certified in the eighties and nineties, if they're within 300 feet of where they actually are, you look on the maps, you see a lot of certified and potential pools right next to each other. The potential pool was based on aerial photographic interpretation. The certified pool was based upon someone drawing an arrow. It's really the same pool, but they're
Right.
right
there's two.
next to each other.
Yeah.
So,
And they're accurate within 500 feet.
about, yeah.
So, any
I have one last
object?
question.
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm wondering if I'm adding the shed to the enforcement order, or would that just be a separate issue?
It's really like a minor exempt
I'm
activity, isn't
tempted
it?
to say we mention it
I think
in
we
the
should add
enforcement
that
order,
because,
since it's proposed, it's here.
Mm-hmm.
a minor project has a fee, does it not?
Yeah, it does, but I was gonna lead up to, should we mention the retaining wall reconstruction?
I'm gonna wait for a plan for that. You're gonna need to tell us,
That's
you
gonna be a
know.
real filing.
Yeah,
And that's a big job too, so.
yeah, it's a biggie.
I actually, I had my choice, I would never build a stone wall again. They just don't
They
hold
have to
up.
be,
Those interlocking blocks that are like 2 feet by 1, hold up a lot better over time than any of those stone walls. Every one I've ever had is broken.
yeah, that grade backwards too.
It's all bent, yeah, and it steps
Yes,
backwards
yeah,
to support
yeah.
the soil.
The-
Because when the previous owners put the pool in there, I don't know if they hit ledge or something else like that, but they raised up the backyard.
Right,
Which I didn't really realize till after we bought the house and I really looked at it. And I said,
right.
why is this up so high? The pool's actually higher than the wall by 4 feet. Okay?
Oh,
Right,
okay.
so,
We can't see it because of the fence.
that's right.
Yeah.
So the pool is up there, then the yard goes down 4 feet,
To the
and then
wall.
the wall is there. So
So the
all
wall's
this
holding
earth
it.
up top is
Being
pushing
held
on
on the
this. It was a
wall.
very poor design, whoever did it. It was not done properly. But I think they must have hit ledge when they put the pool in.
It sounds like you have an above-ground pool that they filled around.
That's exactly what they
could've-
did.
That's what happened. It's a gunite pool, it's an in-ground pool. I just think,
Wow.
Yeah.
and it's got a, an 8-9 foot deep end, and I don't know why they wouldn't put it down,
Yeah.
but it's not the way it was done.
Yeah.
So now the wall is weakened.
Okay. All right. So,
Question from the audience?
yep, questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
First of all, I would like to applaud Joe and Alana for the plan and the wetlands specialist. I think it's great.
As I said to you, we were living at another house, I was working, all this was being done while I was working. I got approval to do this.
Joe,
And I just,
I think you did a great job with this
I
plan.
never intended
The rest of it is history.
Yeah.
You just
And that's for
did,
you
you did a
too,
great
Ryan.
job with this
If the
plan.
town tells you that you can do something, you think that you can do it because the town told you that. And I understand,
It's
I
communication.
just wanna clear the air, I understand that when Chuck
Then we can clear it
came,
outside.
fine, but
Okay.
he came to the door with a concern.
This is our view from my house, not yours. I'm the only house. This is my property that views it. That's it. Living room, front door, bedrooms.
I know, but that's your property, this is our property.
It's like
And
if
I
I
have to
painted
look
the
at it.
house blue and you
It-
didn't
it's
like
just-
blue, you'd be
it's-
looking at blue.
You know what? Right now, I just want the grass cut because I'm worried about ticks. You did most of it last weekend, that's great. You did the pot by truck, that it would be nice to have that cut down.
When we can, we will, after the York break.
Well, I'm worried about ticks, Joe.
You don't have to come over on our side if you're worried about ticks.
Reclaim the street.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, how would I go about getting a copy of the new enforcement order? I mean, I'm just amazed that being on the butter, I'm getting nothing on this. I don't understand the process clearly.
Typically, when there's a filing for a permit, part of that filing process is a butter notification piece.
Well, I understand that, because
So-
every other time somebody's tried to cut a tree in there, one tree at a time is the most anybody's ever asked to do, I've gotten a notice.
Right, so
Okay?
since
So
this
that-
is,
I just wanna know, how do I go about getting a notice of the new enforcement order? I'd like to see the conditions.
Is that,
It's public record, you come
it's
down and get
public
a copy
record
when
after
it's
it's
ready.
issued, is it?
What's that?
Is, after the enforcement order is issued, it's public record, right?
Yeah, as soon as it gets to a meeting, it's public record, so.
But the he's talking about the final enforcement order.
Yeah, you don't, just call
Just
up
come and
after the
do it,
fact,
yeah.
yeah,
What-
just
when-
email it to
is
you,
that-
whatever.
I mean,
By the
it's,
next meeting?
Well, yeah, if it's prepared by the next meeting and it's accepted and it's signed,
It's
then
signed.
Well, I'll
if
just-
it's
I'll-
not accepted
I'll
and
check
signed,
in
then we're
with
not
you
gonna, yeah,
periodically and find out.
yeah.
Because I'd like to see I'd like to see the conditions and.
I don't believe we notify all the abutters when there's an enforcement action being taken.
There's no need to, there's no requirement.
Because
under
it's
that.
kind of almost an emergency thing we have to do, but it's not a filing in that sense.
Well,
That's why.
You know, if you're working within your procedures and protocols, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was just surprised, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
that
but it's, like I say, it is available, it's public record.
And the last question I have is, the period of time, if you move soon to put in soil, but you don't plan until September, would you expect that there's gonna be potential for a lot of blowing?
What we're gonna do, it's gonna be loamed and then it's gonna be seeded immediately. The plants, the woody plants wouldn't be put in later, but
But the seed.
the exposed soil would be planted as lawn or would be planted with the herbaceous seed mix.
Thank you.
As soon as the loam is in and spread and level, you seed it and you start watering, you want grass to grow.
You guys are keeping that erosion control right there.
This one is gonna stay, and what we're gonna actually do, at the wetland boundary, we're gonna put a staked straw wattle.
What are you gonna do to demarcate the line where you wanna stop your, where you wanna separate the grass from the plantings?
Well, that's where those bounds are gonna go, we had boulders
Mhm.
initially. The easement's staked right now,
Yeah,
and we can make sure a couple of the markers here and here, for example, on the easement, so
Yeah.
we know where the easement is. We can do something to permanently demarcate the easement at these points.
that might be helpful
so
for
we
you
usually say,
to
have the
know where the
engineer go
easement
out and
is,
stake it,
where it
so
is.
it goes
It-
exactly where it is
it
on
is
the
staked.
plan.
I know where it
Yeah.
is.
Now you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure.
It's staked precisely, there's a stake, a stake, a stake, a stake, a stake, and a stake. It is staked in the field by survey right
Yeah,
now.
okay.
But,
But some
but
people
not the
also-
erosion control,
What?
not the erosion control.
No.
No.
This silt fence is gonna remain, and we're gonna put a straw wattle staked at 4-foot intervals along the wetland boundary, so that when we York rake, and get the loam in, there's gonna be a period of time until you get something growing there that the soil has the potential to run.
And are you gonna be part of that process?
I will be as much of the part of the process as they want. I can't speak for them. I'm sure I will
We
be
can't say
able-
we'll do it the way we're saying we're gonna do it.
I just wanna make sure that I guess the resource area boundary has that straw wattle or whatever you're gonna use in
Mhm.
that. I'd like to check it out at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, we won't
And then
know-
whether they're just raking out loom
Yeah.
and seeding it, so. we don't
Yeah,
really
the
need
first
to do
step
that.
is call you before work starts.
Yeah.
So they'll basically say, we're gonna do this next Tuesday or something. So communication is the most important thing. Every step, send an email.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so it sounds like the action at this point is drafting a new enforcement order with the new information. Thank you for bringing this in. And we will prepare it for review and signature at the next meeting, which is July 9th.
Did you anticipate any work to happen in July? And would we have a construction schedule for that?
They have to go through the budget and figure out what they're gonna do.
So you don't know? You don't know?
No, I would like to, the answer is yes, there are things that I would like to do. Definitely clean it, I can't mow it, I want to, but at this point with all the rocks, it's dangerous.
Right.
Even along the street, so having it cleaned of all the stones would be a big plus for me, even just to maintain what I have to maintain. So I think I would wanna start there, if that makes sense.
You can pretty much go through step 5 and then do the seeding. at any point, because basically step 5 is getting the loam down and then seeding it as grass, as lawn, and putting that seed mixture down. So I already have the seed mixture in-house, I already have that, and so that's all set to go.
So does that make sense?
No, my only concern is that we have the correct, you know, BBW line, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I want.
Yeah, these points, these ground flags here, what I'd actually suggest is you go to Home Depot and get some 4-foot grade stakes and drive them about 2 feet into the ground and label them with the numbers, because the grade stakes are less likely to have an issue than a little piece of metal flagging that's.
Right.
Yeah.
That way you can just label it, you know, S1 through S12. Just get some 4-foot high grade stakes, drive them a good 1.5 feet into the ground, and label them with the flag numbers.
Are we're York breaking the?
You're not breaking down. You're not doing the.
No, not in there, but in front of that.
Yeah.
In front of that.
Okay, so that would be procedure number 1, right? I would.
Right, because then everyone who goes to help you out, or however this works, you can just say, look, don't work on that side of those stakes and that straw water.
Okay.
That's kind of what I want.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So we put those stakes at that line.
Yeah.
And then the rest can be smoothed out and cleaned, like we're talking about. And then that's a great starting point to move forward for all the rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now go through the procedures with them in detail again, so
Okay.
just so there's no misunderstandings
Yeah,
about
good.
it.
Sounds good.
All
Makes
right,
sense.
thank you.
Thank you. Something else
We're
you
just
want
gonna
to bring up?
meet back next time. You'll have everything that you need. I don't have to bring anything else, right?
I don't think so. I think we'll have the other enforcement order drafted that basically wraps all this up with our conditions written out about what we'd like to see regarding this and with timelines in it. You know, I'm
September
glad to hear
planting.
the September deadline with that, so, which is great, cause that's the next growing season, so.
When you say September, early or late September?
Mid
You're saying
is
mid.
what I understand.
We're gonna plant in let's give us till the last day of September to get the plants in the ground, just in case
Yeah.
there's.
Yeah, so that you don't have to use up, all your lawn water
We'll
all
do-
summer long to
I'll
try and establish
grab
it.
Okay.
and
Just,
I'll
it's
send
got,
you a
that's kind of an optimal time to reestablish plants,
But we won't sign it.
is mid-September.
Come
Right now,
we'll know
plants have to
about
get
any
through the
changes.
summer,
We'll work out.
so they're
Yeah.
working at it.
It's so hot too, yeah.
It's hot, and so the next best time
So
to
make sure they
establish
know
plants.
Okay, so our next
The
meeting.
next best chance for
I'll do it
success is
anyway.
mid-September.
So our next meeting is
July 9.
July 9th, so then after July 9th, so basically now I could start.
You're not gonna do anything until after the
Until
new
after
enforcement
that.
orders issued with the conditions.
Yeah.
That's the safest course of
That'll,
action.
that'll be the final document plan of here's what has to happen and with details of, it's gonna be,
So it gives you a couple and a half weeks to get your thought process together, what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it.
I just wanna make sure I have people lined up and I don't, wait till the last minute to do all that stuff, so it's not easy to get people all the time.
Yeah.
So I like to give people like a month ahead to be able to put it in there.
Schedule, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate springing things at the last minute.
yeah,
They charge you double and they do a lousy job because it's a big rush.
yeah.
So I guess if that gives me enough time, then that's fine. So once I have that, then I should start quoting people to come down and do the work.
Yeah, if we sign it at the next meeting, you've got, anytime after July 9 until, mid-September, or towards the later half of
2 months,
September,
2 months, yeah.
to get the whole plan together and get it going.
And you're gonna put the deadline for the whole plan at September 30th. I know we had discussed
Probably.
possibly
I-
seeding grass earlier, but I don't think the summer's the best time to
You-
seed grass either.
You wanna get the loam in, and you can always mulch it with straw, but it's best to seed it and mulch it. You might wanna also look into hydro seeding, for example, for the lawn area. It's a little
Okay.
more
'Cause
costly, but
July, August, it gets so hot, I don't
Yeah.
you just have to have a couple sprinklers out there,
Yeah, I know.
unfortunately,
Okay.
if you wanna do it.
If you looked at my lawn, you'd see patches of mud,
Yeah,
not
I'm
mud,
not-
but like caked, dry,
I'm not terribly
horrible.
concerned, I just don't want stuff to die that I'm putting in, so I just
Well,
make sure I
we
do
don't
it
want
right
that
time.
either, which is why we're putting those dates in.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Good?
we're
September
working
20th.
towards success on this.
So
It's
that's
gonna,
good.
it's gonna happen. Okay?
Right, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, keep this. Go.
Okay. And, all right, new business. Thanks, John.
Katie?
You guys must be done now, you're not working late all night, are you?
This might be our
Little
earliest
bit.
meeting in a long time.
Okay,
We
well,
got
thank
a
you
couple
all.
other
Appreciate that.
Thanks for your
old new
time.
business. Thank you. Thank you. So Mass DOT, we already approved that. I didn't check it out. Reading Friends and Family Day debrief. I sent an email about that.
Yep.
I forget what I said.
It's
I thought
all
it was
good.
I thought it was all good. You know, again, Will's turtle saved the day.
Again?
Kids, I'm grateful you went through the effort of bringing it and setting it up, and kids went bonkers.
What kind of turtle?
It's a red-eared slider that I caught in the Ipswich River.
How do you set up a turtle?
How do you set up a turtle? He just had a terrarium tank, and he put in the, you know, his rainwater.
He's
He's pretty dull, bro.
Yeah. That's what I was leading
Yeah.
to.
That too.
Bada boom.
That too. People came by with concerns and questions and comments, and one member of the town, one town meeting member stopped and took a look at Kim's map of the town with the setbacks on it, and he studied it, and I hope he just got the basic sense of how wet the town is, instead of thinking, you know, I'm okay here, but I'm not okay on that side of the street, and this, that, and the other. So I thought it went well.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Any potential commissioners?
Maybe just that one guy, but I don't think.
Yeah.
There was no potential commission members, but there was one young woman who I gave her your information, Chuck. She wanted to know. She looked to be either in college or right out, and she said, "I'd like to volunteer to help out somewhere. Where can I said, "Well, hopefully, you know, call Chuck. Maybe we have a little checklist of just little volunteer opportunities that, you know, she wants to help out." So.
Could have used him working on that trail this weekend.
Yep, trail help, weeding, inventory, walking trails, just walking trails and telling us. And
Yeah, so
checking up on signage and stuff like that. I think that would be good. So yeah. Anything else about that?
No, that's, got it.
Okay, certificate of compliance for 19 Arcadia. Hartoonian.
Yeah, we went there.
Hartoonian. Can't say that.
Good job.
So we went
We did a site
and
visit, it
we,
looked great.
yep,
Everything was in place, everything was stable.
it was scaled, it was the right size. We walked over to the Aberjona River, there was a little bit of erosion on their side of the bank. Well, not erosion, but maybe a depression in the bank, but that's not on their property. It's on the Aberjona River.
And
So-
it wasn't exclusive to that area, it was everywhere.
No, yeah, so everything looked good. I would entertain, so, I'd like to move to, we issue a certificate of compliance for 19 Arcadia Avenue.
I'll second that one.
Okay, all those in favor?
Good compliance. Minor project for 287 Haverhill.
287 Haverhill has an established backyard that drops off sharply in the back, and then it becomes that swampy area of, what do we see?
Yeah, Curran Skills.
Cedar Swamp.
Yeah.
Cedar Swamp? Yeah, so it drops right down 2+ feet, something like that. She wants to put a fence on 2 sides of her property. I felt that with that elevation, there wasn't any issues.
No barrier.
And it could fit under the minor project permit, so I issued that, and she's just, really, some people wanna wait to see if the commission's okay with it, and she was one of them.
Oh,
So,
great.
I'm feverishly looking for it
Proactive.
right now.
Okay.
But, like I said, it's not a, there it is,
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
not a biggie.
you got a sketch for it?
Yeah, she's,
Great.
really just drops right down and back there, I guess this gentleman owns a lot, and she's just putting it connecting to here, to there. All she's really doing.
So she wants to put a fence to where it drops off?
Well,
Okay.
she'll be fencing in her entire yard, but she's just matching it right up to an existing fence that is on
Oh,
the
okay.
property already.
Mm.
So, her whole yard will be fenced off, she'll have that gap at the bottom, you know, so the
Mm.
4-inch gap, which is kind of standard animal passage, so, that's pretty much that anyways.
So this is the 6-acre parcel, this is the property?
No, it's right
Oh, it's the one right there, I see it, okay.
Teeny weeny bit.
Okay, I see it.
Two lots they got put together, 15,000 square feet.
Okay. Fence right here.
Oh, right there, okay.
Okay. I don't see any problem with it. Should we put it to official vote to approve the minor project?
Yeah.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor? All right, good. Well, any administration, anything to report?
We just had a couple of things that the commission wanted done, and I just didn't know what to do about them. Enforcement orders, we have a lot of enforcement orders that, not enforcement, but violations. One Will brought up, we had the town go out and stake it, nothing's happened with that. There's a new one, I think Anika went out to that property where they were dumping.
Henzy
yeah.
Street.
Um,
Henzy Street.
And then we have this river, what is it, the
Pumping.
Jonah, where they're pumping.
John Carver.
So, I don't know if we need just what can be done with these things. We need to, identify a problem and then send out a letter, if that's what you guys want, and then have them come to a meeting and then discuss it.
Yeah, letters should go to 33
I mean, the letter shouldn't say, anything, there's gonna be enforcement or anything like that, just if we can get them into the meeting, I feel like the way you guys kinda operate, at that point, that, you can make up your mind, because I don't wanna make assumptions based on whatever they're doing.
Yeah, we need to, there seem to be, I think we need to stay on top of these little items, because I think, it's the residents who, there are certain residents in town who are keenly interested in protecting these resource areas as well. And,
We need to
if,
respond to that.
we do
At the very
need to
least,
respond to that.
them, cause if we don't,
yeah,
then we're really kind of creating a situation that, people are like, well, do they just.
Right. Right, so I think a letter for each of these situations for John Carver Road, and Henzy Street. I think I emailed you some draft for that.
You did, John Carver Road, I didn't understand what
I could
violation-
draft- I
what
could-
the violation was.
John
I
Carver
can
Road, I
draft
have
that.
concerns with, because the only reason why I say this is, we have these standards, 100, what is it,
100,000 gallons.
I
I don't know what that
It's per incident. It's like you get a truck that's that big.
So like,
Right.
that
Doesn't make a
leads
lot
me
of
to
sense.
believe that there are some existing, water rights for people. I mean, what rights does this person have to withdraw that?
Yeah.
Maybe they do,
Well-
and I wanna tread carefully on that.
So that's
Well-
why my suggestion was more to the town and say,
Right.
do you wanna go with this safety issue where
Right.
you might put no parking signs up there, or you
Right.
might say, look, this is not allowed.
Right.
It really doesn't fall under our jurisdiction unless there's some sort of alteration going on.
Right.
Right.
Or damage, and
Right.
I've never seen them do that.
And that's the thing, I don't wanna create an issue.
I mean,
We
it
have enough
doesn't
issues
sound
today.
right,
Well,
but
yeah,
the
right.
threshold's so high.
Right.
So that's exactly the letter I didn't feel like writing.
And that's
Because
not
I
to
had
say the
nothing to back
threshold
myself
shouldn't
up
change,
with.
but, yeah.
Well, according to this resident, it's been happening for years.
Now, I wonder if you could, there's
Um,
probably something in the file, but as I recall, in this county before, we didn't think we could do anything about it.
Oh.
There's a big difference between 100,000 gallons out of Ipswich compared to Arizona. It sounds like if you took that out of Arizona, you'd suck it dry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
This
that's.
is-
I
well,
just
this
wonder
is
why it has
Castine
100,000.
Field. It's the little stream
Yeah.
So
right
they're
next
not
to
taking
Castine
much,
Field.
yeah.
And what I was joking with Chuck, if somebody's pumping a little bit of water out of that, well, he's kind of doing the residents next to that a little bit of a favor.
Throwing down the lights.
Right? So, I mean, but at the same time, I don't think we can let it slide necessarily.
Well, as long
We may
as-
not have
I mean,
full
if it-
enforcement
I think we,
capabilities, but
See, that's-
something,
if they
something to
actually-
let them know it's being watched and
I mean,
what
if
do we know
100,000
about it?
gallons was taken out of there, I mean, which would probably be, 20 trucks that take out 5,000 gallons.
Yeah.
That's gonna dry up the stream. It will have an effect
Yeah.
on the groundwater.
That's what I mean, like a small stream, I don't know, I'd say 100,000 should be based on the stream.
Right, I mean,
And then that would be an impact. But, if it's a few isolated trucks,
well, I think some level of follow-up is needed. If we know of something that's happening, I think some level of follow-up, and I think a letter is the most, recorded way to,
What are you gonna
say?
Yeah.
It's
We're
just.
watching you.
No, I think a letter that simply says, we have a report from a resident claiming that some of your trucks are coming here on a regular basis to suck water out of this river. We'd like to verify, we'd like to, if that's the case, we'd like to talk to you a little bit more about it. We don't know if, we can't even say, is it an issue or not? But we would like to find out a little bit more information about it. Would you please come to one of our hearings?
Yeah,
So
so
we
that
can
they
talk to
reassure.
you about it. And based on their response,
It'd be nice to be reassured it's not a problem.
well, I think we
Yeah.
have to open up a line of communication. I don't want to see this happening at every little stream in town. I don't know if it's significant enough to be called under the Wetlands Protection Act alteration. We don't have enough information. So, but I think we can try to get a little bit more information. That's all. Should I draft something? Is anybody else willing to draft a letter?
Well, it's always great to say, did you know that this is a town bylaw that you're up against in the Wetlands Protection Act, things like that, and,
Yeah.
this continues, we're just,
We can,
I don't know.
I can draft something and present it at a meeting, and we could discuss it as old new business, and everybody can add their 2 cents, and we could all modify it and give it back to you, Chuck, to
I would like them
finish
not
and
to do
send.
it there, and then find a stream that it works at. Why not at the Ipswich River up where North Reading is? That's a lot deeper, isn't it?
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know
Yes.
where the great place to do this would be.
may not have a good
But
parking spot.
It's probably less about
Just stop at the bridge
depth
and
and
drop
more
the
about
hose.
access than
Yeah.
Well, I
anything
think,
else.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So.
She said they show up just before 8 o'clock. It's 4 trucks every morning. And then as the communication, as she kept talking, she said, I don't think they were here this morning.
But is it?
And maybe
is
it was only once this week so far, or
But-
something
but
like
it's
that.
periodic.
But
The taxpayer means.
It's regular.
I'm not a Reading taxpayer, but when businesses in Arlington put out their trash from their garages, it just obviously.
Well.
It's like they're gaining the system somehow.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
and
So
the,
she was gonna try and.
I see
find
all
The
out-
tree service.
non-commercially registered
That's
trucks
the
down on
that's the
Arlington
only thing I
on
have
the
a
contract.
this problem.
the tree service she's talking about is on Chapin Drive.
So we have a name of it.
We have a name.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it's, Yeah.
And she said another truck has shown up from another place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Hey, go to this place.
well,
Get
yeah,
the hose
well,
ready.
if it's, It
Easy
could happen,
access.
although that is a very busy area. But now that school's out, maybe it won't be
Mhm.
quite as busy. I don't know.
I mean, a letter to, I don't know if there's a traffic study commission here in Reading might be
think there is.
better.
Well, selectmen.
Yeah,
I mean,
selectmen.
we should copy the selectmen.
Yeah.
I can try and get on
Well,
the
also-
agenda for the selectmen's meeting next and just let them know some stuff we're hearing and do they have any.
Or you could write them a letter.
Or just, yeah.
But it's clear, I mean, it's clear that unless they're over the threshold for what they're, pumping out, or they're messing up the
Altering.
bank, or, driving the trucks right
Or
down
the
there.
river bottom,
Yeah,
so that's resource area.
yeah.
Land underwater.
Yeah.
That's all true,
They might be sucking up frogs.
Yeah.
Depends how they, right. Well, I can't imagine that it yields a lot of water over there, but,
I'm sure they're using this.
so.
That'd be,
Stream.
I just imagine the frog just being stuck there for the whole 800
Yeah.
gallons. There's
come on,
definitely
shut
a
the thing off.
screen.
No, but I think we need, I think we do need to get some of these action letters dusted off and sent out.
Oh, okay, so, I forgot the name of the street where.
Enzy,
No, not that one.
Carver?
John Carver,
Pearl Street, what is the action there?
Pearl Street.
Pearl Street.
Pearl
With the
Street
property
is where
infringement.
encroachment onto the conservation land, not really wetland, just conservation
No,
land.
it's conservation, yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
one we keep paying the water bill for?
No, this is someone's backyard,
They,
I
they,
thought.
they wanna put a trail in, right? Over to Bear
Well,
Meadow?
that's, no, there's no proposal to do that. I mean, the woman who lives on the corner of Pearl and Maine would like to, but I don't
Oh.
think that'll happen. I think we need bounds. We need our little conservation signs
Hmm.
put up.
That'd be a nice volunteer project.
Mhm.
Back to
Some
the
green
property.
bounds and.
Cause it's been surveyed, I mean, the town's surveyed.
Yeah, they usually put 2 stakes in, but I think it's been surveyed.
Yeah.
Stakes disappear.
True.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
These ones are probably still there, but that would be a great suggestion because, it's been already surveyed out, couple, 3
Mhm.
granite browns. I know, could get a price on those and,
Yeah.
and then the rest would be a volunteer project or, I don't know.
We have some insurance company looking for volunteer work.
Plenty of granite down there at the we walked
Oh,
by
yeah.
the
Oh,
other day.
at the compost
We don't
pile.
have to buy a pound.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Big
There's a
pile
lot
of
of
granite
granite.
down
Tons of
there.
it.
There's a lot of granite down there.
That is unmovable.
God,
That's why it's there.
Cause you need a crane.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hopeful that they use it occasionally for curb projects.
Check concrete too, shade concrete. They're probably a lot cheaper. Granite's expensive.
Okay. So that takes care of one.
Okay,
And then what do you want to go in Henzy?
That would be a letter.
that would be a letter.
Mm.
So I drafted it.
Right, so that one there I like because it's a clear violation and it's recent. It's not historic, Phil.
Well, that's why I wanna get on that. I wanna
Yeah.
jump on it.
Yeah.
Because the longer time passes, the
Mhm.
less likely anything's gonna be done about it.
Would you, is it
So I think we should
remove
send
the
it.
fill? Is it stop doing it?
Well, let's remove it. We gotta get it out of there. We gotta get,
Yeah.
it's dumping in there, we gotta get it out.
That Henzy's a dead-end street, right? And then it just kinda drops
It is.
down at that point?
It is, and a
Isn't that
trail
where the
goes
kids
off.
walk through that to get to school?
Yes, it's a trail that goes off to the left.
Yeah, I remember
It's a
seeing that.
good little trail.
Yeah.
And there's a bridge that,
Yeah.
an arched bridge, yeah, I know.
Arch Bridge.
I think it is. I think there was like a,
I remember a bridge down there that was maybe about
Was it ours? No, it wasn't,
20
sorry.
feet long and it's rather flat.
really wide, like 6
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
And a lot of the slats from that are
The
are
problem with
missing
that
and
is
gone.
that is rough wood. It's a 2x4, but it's not planed. And I don't know where we can get that. Because isn't it like 3.5 by 1.5 when you plane
It's
it down?
Pretty big, yeah.
So trying to find an actual 2x4, you'd have to find some
It's
lumberyard that hadn't finished
Yeah,
it.
It's gotta be a lot of
And-
crust on.
And
Well, they use it for
because I was over there a
planks.
couple of months with Tom Gardner, we looked at that
Mhm.
and saw the 6 pieces that were missing, but we didn't know where we could find 2x4s that's rough. Otherwise, you put it in and you're half an inch
Well, they
down.
sell it
It's a
as
trip hazard.
scaffolding, as planks.
Oh, yeah?
Reading lumber has it.
Okay.
I'm sure they do.
But
Well, that's good to
the
know.
resident, so the residents is willing to put it in, he just
Yeah,
needs the
great.
material.
The 2x10s or something. That's
Okay.
something.
Can you take care of that between now and the next meeting?
Take care of
Of
finding
getting
it.
that and getting a price for it?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know
Well,
if
that-
some of this can come out of any of the conservation,
Well, we were-
or is it
You mean-
trails funds this should come out of?
Right, cause Tom was talking about trying to find the lumber so that we could make that one of the next
Okay.
trail projects.
Yeah.
So I can check and see where we're out of that.
Okay, and know that there's somebody there who's willing to work with you on labor.
That's good to know
gentleman
too.
Patrick,
Patrick, yeah.
All right.
okay? So that's two issues for Henzi, so a letter for Henzi, can you draft that by the 9th?
I can.
So a letter for Henzi. John Carver, anybody wanna,
You're doing Sean Carver.
I'm doing John Carver?
That's
Alright.
all you.
Alright, here it is,
Not that it's not all you, it's just all.
I'll do it. I'll have it drafted and,
I
for
mean,
the next meeting,
I
and people can edit.
have to say, I understand what you're saying, but is it the effort going in that direction is, I mean, I would send a
Is it
letter to
best
them
spent?
just to know we're watching, but really work with the selectmen to,
Yeah.
you know, this
To
could be a
address the issue.
problem, but there's some other issues there.
I mean, maybe it's more of a nuisance than it is a conservation thing for an abutter, a nuisance. The guy's running the pump at
Well,
whatever hour, and
I know for a fact that there's a whole list of what you can and can't do as a construction project
Right.
and what time you can start. So
Right.
if they're going there, maybe
Right.
they're violating some of that
right,
times and whatnot.
right. It may not even be a.
We did send letters out to Maple Street already, down
Near
south of
Pinedale?
the town near Pinedale.
Did we send letters for that?
What was that?
To all the neighbors, right?
Yeah, I
We do,
remember
every once in a while we
reading that.
send a blast out to the neighborhoods.
Didn't work, they're still dumping.
It's hard to
I know.
stop that.
I think the only way to do that maybe is to, get like little posted street signs that say no
Well,
dumping
it's not
conservation.
posted. Yeah, we need to come up with
Better signage.
a sign.
I'm thinking, camera, one of those.
Hunting camera.
Hunting
Cameras.
type cameras,
A little cam
yeah.
set up to see what's
Put it
happening there.
around. I did see a picture of somebody, but he wouldn't give me the picture of a neighbor walking across a baseball field with a wheelbarrow.
Oh. Which baseball field?
Does the security cam took the picture or something, or?
I think the neighbor did.
Oh, we actually took a photograph.
Yeah.
Photographed this guy just heading across the baseball field. It was, which one's the one right down here?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, there you go.
down Pleasant Street.
Yeah, yeah. So, I thought that was a lie. No, it's down here and then you're gonna go, go 2 or 3 streets down.
Huntfield?
Huntfield, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great hunting ground down there.
It is. It's a good walk, dude.
Yeah.
Walk the truck.
Yeah, we used to live on Pleasant.
So do we need
It
to,
is.
do we need to revisit regulations again? We need to put a clarification there, we always come up against this, stones are not a structure, it happens time and time and again. People say stones are not a structure, they try to say that, this is a riprap spillway, it's not a structure. It happens all the time, do we need to clarify that? We have to say stones arranged in a pattern is a structure.
Well,
Which
you
a stone
know, the
house
Webster's
would be.
Dictionary, because we went through this in Boxford also, so it's good to talk about Boxford because we both worked there. They went with the Webster's Dictionary definition, so
Okay.
it's any pieces that are assembled into a part of it that form something.
Well, there we
Like
go.
a fence.
There we
is
go.
Like a,
Do we need to put
sprinkler
the-
system.
Do we need to
That's
put those words
structure.
into not the bylaw, the regulations?
Regulations.
Well, I think we gotta think about it. I think we have to, I don't
Because
want.
it always ends up being an argument. The consultant says it's not. Well, if it's in the regulation, it is.
Right, but what would you say,
And we wouldn't have to argue all
it'd
that.
have to be thought about, you know, how to put it in there so it doesn't capture something that's unintended.
Right.
Because I think we've already established, like, outfall structures, they're
Right.
in, but something, a retaining wall, a wall.
I think the way Voxer did it is great, you know, you assemble anything.
Oh, and I heard the building code argument before, which is true, but it's, so if you didn't put a definition in there, it doesn't mean you're going by the building code, doesn't mean you're going by Webster's dictionary, it's just.
It just seems that it's unclear because we always come up against it.
Right. Probably think about if you were opening it again, you might wanna think about a tree replacement policy.
There
A
you
tree
go.
replacement policy,
There you go.
a very explicit statement of the vernal pool,
There are several
protected
things that we can
habitat
update.
buffer zone,
No.
a couple other things.
But
Maybe
everyone
tighten
in
up, like,
Reading is rolling their eyes, right? Yeah, I'm saying, oh God, we're heading back. But,
No, these are clarifications, I think, you know, these, we intended these to be captured in the regulations,
I
and
think-
and it's very unclear to people, it's clear to us, and we continually have to explain ourselves that this is the way we've been implementing this all along, and they tend to disagree, you know, it's not like we're trying to change a 35 to a 75, you know?
and I'd like to add some more things to the minor project permit that are kinda like pretty
There
much
you go.
approved.
Yeah.
So, that would be great, because
Yeah.
we had some confusion over an architect that drew a set of plans and, you know, she's almost outside of the 200-foot riverfront.
right.
And she just, we do the plans, we gotta go through this NOI process, and I said, no, you don't, you're more than 50 feet away, so I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
that everyone agrees that 50 feet is riverfront too.
Right?
Right.
So it's like 50 feet, you think about it, it's like half of 100, so it would be 100 feet with 200-foot riverfront? No, it's 50 feet no matter what.
Right.
So it should be, that should be on both of those.
Oh, minor projects includes riverfront?
So would you?
Certain items.
Well, again, you know, you understand the first 100 feet of the riverfront, would we, yeah, see, would we allow that? And so, you know, it's kind of tough.
Different set of standards.
Exactly.
Yeah. But we wouldn't be having a discussion if
So a shed in the first 100 foot of the riverfront, which, you know, it should be.
yeah, if it's existing lawn, yeah, I don't think it's an issue, right?
Well, that's the kind of thing that we wanna straighten out, just have that list, cause we can put that right on the website,
Yeah.
people are gonna be
Yeah.
happy to go.
Yeah,
"Oh,
I think we should maybe go through that list again, then, just
Yeah.
to be sure.
That would be
That
good.
came up on, Longwood, they wanted to do something in the backyard next to the Arizona.
Mm.
At first we thought they couldn't do it, but then I realized it's an accessory structure.
Yeah.
In an existing lawn.
Yeah.
Well, I think the clearer we make our regulations and whatever supporting documents, forms, notices, cheat sheets, worksheets, whatever, the clearer we make those, the less surprised applicants are gonna be
Well, yeah.
coming before us too, and
Right.
it only
And
serves.
it's clear we don't run into these issues where they say, well, you know, we tried this and, you know, but now we have to come back, you know, it's clear and.
Yeah, might be easier for everybody. So, let's consider that.
Yeah, so I would say what you said in the minor project of my top two, I mean, I think minor project speaks for itself, and it does come up all the time with the 35-foot area. So you might just extend the zone of natural vegetation right to the 35-foot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the difference is you can have lawn in the 10-foot. You can put grass there. However, as I was reading tonight, and I didn't bring it up because it didn't seem necessary, if you have a bay window, which is not, there's no foundation in a bay window,
No.
you can only get within 7 feet of the 25-foot with the bay window, with a cantilevered structure. a
And
deck,
I
a
think
bay
that was from
window.
Azalea Circle, that was
Yeah.
the,
So
with-
back in the day, the building department, used to, I mean, people would cantilever everything.
Right.
And it was, you know, allowed a lot more. Now it's
Right.
kind of frowned on.
They
People
don't.
don't really do that.
They
We're
don't
only
build it
talking
right.
about windows
They
and
don't build it right, that's
little
why.
things, but we're not
Exactly.
going 3 feet out with some sort of
hanging, I don't know, an extension of your kitchen.
Right.
So,
Right.
I don't know, I've seen that in a lot of places where they look from, bird's eye view, so it can't be 35 feet, whether it's cantilevered or not.
Right.
Bird's eye.
Right. But it's interesting that we have that, like you said.
But that confuses people too, so that's the difference, is it 35 or?
Maybe we need to remove
35?
it. Maybe we need to remove that, just to make it more clear.
And there's not many people, using it.
Two setbacks.
How many people are using that area?
I mean, you can cantilever a deck if you have a beam, but you're very limited as to how far you can go out without having, you can only go out, I think it's a third or a
3 to 1.
quarter or something like that, so. You'd be hard pressed, you'd have a really big deck to cantilever to get within 7 feet, And at that point, you'd be like,
Okay, minutes, if there's nothing else, bills, any bills?
There are no bills from what I know.
Okay.
We check the minutes of.
The minutes, I didn't have anything,
No, I read through
I
them.
read it.
And I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't comment on them.
You're gonna have to vote on
you're gonna have to
them.
vote in principle,
You're gonna have to
though.
vote on them, though.
They look
They
close
did.
enough to me.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes for June 11th, 2014.
I'll second. All those in favor? Okay.
I trust you guys.
Twist.
Based on my knowledge of how well
Here's
you
another
guys
thing
look
kinda
at
like
it, I
hanging
will
out
vote
with
yes.
that Jackie Carson, I wasn't at the last meeting, she didn't call me.
Oh, right.
That's 50 Bay
I
State.
don't know, yeah, Jackie Carson, 50 Bay State.
I was supposed to
Samuel
probably
Place.
follow up with a
Oh,
site
okay.
visit with her.
Great.
So,
You want the folder?
sure. Sure.
This is the official folder, so I have to get this back.
I will get that back to you. Okay. So, any other business? No? No? Chuck, you're on vacation.
I won't be at the
You're-
next meeting, then
Yep.
and I'll be back after that, but it looks like I only have to do the enforcement order and write a couple letters. I'm keeping up on the rest of the,
You're not gonna-
agenda and whatnot, and we'll have a meeting before that, so you'll be up.
You're not gonna cancel the meeting like Fran used to?
I can cancel it, but I don't
She would not let the meeting happen without her being here.
Yeah.
She used to
I'm,
cancel.
I'm part of the group, I'm not the group, so you can have your meeting without
There
me.
you go.
The part that, I mean, it sounds like, 37 James Road might be the only, I don't know how that order of, he's gonna have to, you can't draft an order for the next meeting.
It's not close, he's gonna, so what I was trying to set up is when I got back, I could start drafting it for the following meeting, I don't know what date that would be.
23rd.
Close on the
23rd.
9th,
23rd.
and then we'll issue the order on the 23rd. is what Chuck
Oh,
said.
got it.
That's what
So
Chuck
we get
said.
our last bit of information on the 9th.
I mean, all in all,
With the
that,
new
No, we're gonna
plans.
get it before then.
that,
Yeah,
to me,
but
that doesn't
And then
seem-
approve it on the 9th and have it signed by
We
the
got
23rd.
364 rolls.
On the 9th, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are on your own for that. Don't close everything.
I don't think we can close, wow.
No, he's only asking for, at least that's where I remember him leaving it, the variance. He was wondering about the variance.
For
It's gonna
Lowell
Bringing in-
Street.
It's
Yeah,
gonna challenge the bylaw on that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How's your filing going on that pool?
Well, it's done. It's all
It's done. Did you get Chuck a copy of it?
Yep.
Thanks.
I mean, I haven't heard back from them, I'm not
Yeah.
really due to hear back.
Yeah.
Is there anybody left over there? National Heritage?
Yeah, so I should be, I'll have almost 2 weeks when I get back before the next, well, not 2 weeks, but as much time as I ever had to craft anything.
Are you and I meeting on the 8th or the 7th?
Yeah, whichever,
Either.
not the 7th though, would have
On
to
the
be the Monday or the Tuesday, so the 30th or the 1st of next week.
First?
For the July 9 meeting?
Yeah,
Because you're gone.
and I'm gone after
Okay,
that. If you don't wanna
okay.
do it then,
Let's do the first.
alright, we'll do the first.
Tuesday.
It's, right now, it's a very
But
light
it's-
agenda.
Yeah, it is a light agenda. The
It's-
thing is, I've been called for jury duty.
Oh, have you?
I've been called for jury duty
That's
to the
excellent.
Superior Court on Monday,
Excellent.
but I asked
Malden?
them to change, Woburn.
That's
But I asked the administrator to move me to the Woburn District Court, and they said, just walk in Tuesday morning, the first.
Oh, really?
I got clued into a back door, so.
Well, it doesn't have to happen. I don't,
So why did I say Monday? I could definitely
gonna-
meet Monday.
I'm actually gonna go over a project right now that's gonna help everybody, alright?
Okay.
A gentleman came in and I'm gonna have to, find his email. So a gentleman came in and he has an old order of conditions that has expired and he also never recorded it at the Registry of Deeds, okay?
Oh.
He wants to do the exact same project, it was approved, okay?
Okay.
So he's requesting, he sent me a letter asking the commission to look at this again. The only change is there's a turnaround area now, about 5 additional feet, because he drives down his driveway, which was approved, into a garage, which was approved, and the only thing they wanna
Wants a
do
little
is
bump
they just
out.
want a little bump out, and the wetlands is in that direction, so it would be horizontal to the wetlands.
Parallel to.
And this thing has come through the commission, so
Yeah.
he's asking you to look at it again. I'm gonna just give you everything that he's given me and the letter. He's gonna ask you if he can just move forward with this, and how is that done? See, that's the problem. How can we allow this?
When was it approved?
Even with all the permit extensions,
Oh, this was like in 2000.
could we do it under an enforcement order?
You know, that's interesting, you probably could, but maybe you could do a, like an
Reissued.
RDA, allowing this project to happen, you know,
Issue a negative determination only,
yeah.
based on a previous order of conditions? That'd be something, I'd be tempted to put that out to the MACC.
See how you could resurrect this project. He didn't record it, so he could almost,
Right.
he
So
could
it's
almost
kind of
submit
doesn't exist
everything
almost.
again.
Right.
And do it the right way. I mean, that's the cleanest, and I think that I've already asked, Greg McGregor how to do a certain thing that was similar to this. He said the cleanest way to do it is, how you've been taught, just bring it in as a new project. But it's something for
It
you to
would be
consider. You're only
notice of
considering it at the next meeting, making your decision, and then telling him whatever he needs to do. Now, you saved the money from, going down and recording it. He doesn't need new plans, and you could just copy the same old notice, so.
Right. Well, let's take a look at it.
Yeah, that's the only, and then we'll have another scout project.
The
I'm gonna
boardwalk?
give him your number, cause I think he's
Yep.
getting just wants to talk over the project. And I said you could either come in early, but this is the one you all reviewed.
On the
I saw
trail?
you on the
The
trail,
trail?
Brandon Lee.
Brandon Lee,
Okay.
I think he has everything, he talks like he has everything, he's got a little
Yeah.
Google Docs presentation
Mhm.
and some paperwork, but I don't have any of it yet. It certainly fits just like this one does, except
we got-
for, quality of plans means something,
Yeah, well,
people.
his
They
plan.
do.
He has a lot more
They
detail
do.
in his plan than this guy did.
Did you,
You know, I know,
and Danica goes,
It's actually
Chuck, did you
designed by
know
Will.
the engineering department approved the plans, I was
it's funny, we're coming up against this, well, it wasn't on the map, We are living in the YouTube age. If you see it on YouTube, it's real. If you don't see it on YouTube, it's not real. So, if the map doesn't show it, the wetland doesn't exist, and, I'm making this statement sort of tongue-in-cheek, of course. We have to deal with that reality as a commission that, people automatically think that if it's not on the internet, then it can't be true. So, like this wetland thing, I know it's an oversimplification of what's happening, but it's true. I mean, people think you can get everything that you need digitally
Yeah.
now. And especially if they come to town hall and someone looks at a map and says, oh yeah, or the official town map on the web, this is the official town map, and I can print this
Definitely.
off with a town seal on it, it shows that there's not a wetland here.
We absolutely need to get that disclaimer put on these.
Or have it taken off
layers,
altogether, have a layer not accessible.
which is something.
And if they
I
want the layer, go to
understand.
Oliver, Mass GIS.
I've asked that the layer comes off, I've asked that, we do a disclaimer, I don't know where that's at, I think, Kim, she can do anything.
Yeah,
And but she doesn't have total command of this site.
Yeah.
There's only, she has to work through another company.
Right. Almost
So
like
that's why taking it off was like, okay, well, let's,
almost like a click box.
So
You
I've done it.
acknowledge that this is not,
I've
this is
ordered,
not official.
yeah. So what I'm going
Check.
to do now
It's
is,
not
I've ordered a
sufficient.
stamp that says, this is,
This may be inaccurate and incomplete.
okay. Well, the stamp basically tells you that although I'm saying yes to your minor project permit over the counter, I am not verifying any wetlands.
It needs verification in the
Yeah.
field.
So it's gonna be stamped on everything, and, this 37 James Road,
I mean, two projects in the same room, I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was crazy, that, I think,
Come on.
I know,
I think.
I
but
was
that's
waiting for
been
that to happen.
happening, that's been happening for
And the guy in the middle
last-
yelling at both.
Well, what,
Yeah.
That's been happening for a couple other meetings.
I wanted to say something like, there's someone sitting in this room right here that's.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I
he-
can
he
see that.
certainly did talk about it.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, how do you not have that happen? And I think that Gene Delios has been kind of struggling with that
Yeah.
also, because, this is definitely something that she doesn't like
Yeah,
to have happen.
yeah, of course.
And I think some of
Neither
her
do we.
emphasis is on,
Yeah.
and that's probably why you got that stamp, is some sort of documentation, a paper, that people, when people leave, they remember a discussion, and they don't always remember maybe what the person talking to them was trying to emphasize.
How many times does
So-
someone come in with the plan that I've doctored up for them, and I say, oh, I guess I did look at this before, so you
Yeah.
don't remember
No,
everything.
you don't.
Right.
But
Right.
as far as I know, there's, that's my typical thing, is to, sit down with people and show them what we're looking at.
Yeah,
So that's another surprise that I have about this particular, he has nothing saying that we've signed off on it.
right.
And I would take the blame, I'm okay with that, but I don't think, the best thing I could do is split it down the middle, saying his project isn't what it turned out to be.
Right, right.
And he
Yeah.
came in and described something
Right.
that, I don't know how it happens, but it's how do you stop it from here?
Yeah.
Right, right.
And unfortunately, what I just see happening over and over, almost with every new permit, is like decimation of the town habitat. It's
Yeah.
just getting decimated. And the wetland side of me, just, the
That's what we're gonna see.
enforcement side of me says, we're losing it. It's going, like old growth is going, habitat area is going, and we're not gonna get it back anytime soon.
When you get bidding wars on houses, that, houses sell for $60,000 over the asking price, within the last 2 months.
The housing market in Reading is
People
flying.
are
Right now.
getting serious about their land. They want this yard, they want this, they wanna be in Reading, and they want this yard in Reading as well. They don't wanna be in Stone, they don't wanna be in North Reading, and there's gonna be fights. There's gonna be fights.
We need to.
It's not gonna get
It's
easier.
the season, too.
Yeah, we've identified some stuff, the GIS map, talking to the realtors, and, the stamp.
Realtors aren't helping out,
I don't think,
because they just wanna sell the property.
yeah, I don't understand.
But I think by law they have to.
They have to advise them that there is wetland.
Well,
I think it's a gray area.
no,
Yeah,
I
would think so.
think I think there've been a couple of sales lately in town, one of which is near, so as you drive, 129 towards REI. and, you're driving down that road and just on the left, that, like, one of the houses used to be really, really, really run down, and it got completely refurbished
In about 2 weeks.
in about 2 weeks, and then there's a house between that
Right.
house and the wetland. That house next to it, the one closer to the wetland, just got sold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what's gonna happen, I'm gonna drive by in a month and it's gonna be clear cut.
Right.
You know, so, I don't know if, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if we can put a list of streets together that we could say, we have had, you know, enforcement actions along, I don't know, maybe that's just opening up a can of worms, but
That's-
something that tells the realtors, if you're selling, I should just tell them, you know, if you're selling in low-lying areas that are close to, you know, culverts,
Right.
Isn't that about a third of Reading?
it may be a massive issue to the resident.
Maybe more for a buyer's agent than a sales agent, you know, when they're
Yeah.
representing the buyer, they're like, hey, you need to watch out for
Yeah,
this.
the buyer's agent.
But I don't know where the buyer's agents aren't.
Well, any realtor. I mean,
Yeah, well, yeah,
it would be a buyer's agent.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it would serve them well as a buyer's agent.
Because they have a moral obligation to the buyer.
Right.
Because these guys, you know, what, they're getting it for $40,000 they didn't expect.
Well, I'll see, I do know some people who are either working on their realty license or who have begun to sell in town, so I'll see who I can talk to and what networking I can do through some of those people. I could also just plain walk over to the train station and walk into Century 21 and see who I can talk to there, but I mean, I think the message has to be,
They
you
must
know,
have some.
please be cautious, be overly cautious. And even, you know, that if people are even remotely close to a low-lying area in town, you know, they may need professional assistance to do any modification to their house. That could run them additional money. My neighbor was saying to me in my neighborhood, and I feel like I live in a fairly upland part of town, luckily, that she was saying to me, she said, oh my gosh, I wanna do a build off the back of my house, do I have to come before you guys? I said, no, I don't think so.
Hold on, let me go take a walk
Right,
with you.
it's on Summer Ave, but it's, you know, it's between, you know, 28
You should have said
and
better
Uber.
check.
Right, I should've, but she was thinking, oh my gosh, and what if they won't deny my build? And I said, you're building out into the middle of your lot, maybe it's not a big issue, cause you're as far away from setbacks as you could possibly be.
Is there still a newcomer's package you get when you buy a house?
Yeah, if there's one of those. Like a nice little slogan, you could say 40% of Reading is within the wetlands protection jurisdiction. Please check before you do any projects if you're a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is, which works in Foxford and in Arlington, is we don't actually go after the homeowner. We actually fine the contracting company. Fine them, and if they're not fined, we send them to MACC to take a course on identifying wetlands.
That's awesome.
It is.
Oh, that's
'cause then you can
effective.
do those courses online, because that contractor sees multiple people throughout the year, whereas that homeowner, it's a one-time thing,
Right.
and he's saying I'm
Yeah.
blindsided, but if you
Right.
have these people out there knowing that they can get fined, we can do $300 a day,
Yeah.
or you can send them to that course like
Yeah.
I said, that makes a big difference, so,
That's huge.
yeah, and then how many
Maybe
times?
we wanna consider that for the regulations.
We always have
Well, I
an option,
always
we just
ask
haven't
for-
done it.
I've always asked for who's the contractor. I mean, we know who it is on the Festolos site, and
But they need to know to come see you, not.
and honestly, 37 James Road, James Road just thinks that they have the state of Massachusetts behind them, so they can do anything they want. So that's, I think that's where it's at with them.
Yeah.
So there's no one to find, in other words.
Right.
Well, if you were Oxford, you could find the state. I'm sure they'd try it.
You could always try.
think they've done it before in one.
Who's the DEP over the river?
So let's close the hearing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any other matters? No? Okay, second. All those in favor? Hearing closed. Meeting closed.
I got this in my package.
Oh, 'cause Ann works